Elastic blind. Why do I climb these heights for you? Twisted muse always gets my shit confused. What's a man have to prove? Do I have to walk the night for you? Every mountain I've climbed, there's a valley low. For every highway I ride, there's a rocky road. She's got me beat, she's got me broken, right down to my soul. Drunk and young, I asked to walk you home, but an aloof response had me on my own without you. I stumble on, all alone, with DMVs. Where are you gone? I'll repeat in my dome so blue. She's got me beat, she's got me broken, right down to my soul. She's got me beat, she's got me broken, right down to my soul. You pick me up, don't you know you got a hold on me? It brings me down in only ways that you can see. You give me close, then you go ahead and run from me, and hit me up when you're lonesome and need company. Wayward mind, lost it blind. Why do I climb these heights for you?
Reboot Repair, Stratford's best computer support and services, personalized IT solutions, hardware, software repairs, on-site business, and home services, everything you need to get taken care of. Cam and Dylan doing a great job after 1 year of business, the bricks and mortar at 155 Erie Street, along with they do a lot of cellular repairs too. So if you do have any issues with that, come in and see the guys. They'll take good care of you. Reboot Repair. Thanks so much, guys.
All right, number 50, episode 50.
Wow.
Wow.
Who would have thought?
Happy to be here.
Right?
Welcome. Congratulations, guys,
Yeah.
on Fitty.
50, man. That's
50.
I said to Jeff, I said 50. He goes 50. I said, you know.
Pretty amazing when you two started out just trying to
Messing
figure out
around.
what you
Yeah.
wanted to do, and here we are, 50 episodes.
Episode
later.
number 1, no mics on.
Yeah.
Sounded
Came a
like
long
Jeff.
way.
Sounded like Jeff was in a back room because we were in a back room.
Yeah.
But you know, it worked out.
That's good.
Oh,
It's been a journey.
it has.
Yeah. It's been good to see the evolution of it, and I know that when we started off and kind of had our ideas, it was important that we pivoted just
Yeah.
because I think we had reached the ceiling of what we had. But to introduce Razor and obviously the part of the fabric Holly week in, week out, it's really evolved into something that a lot of people look forward to. So we really thank the listeners who have increased a crazy amount over the last
Exponentially.
exponentially. Thank you.
It's very humbling.
Yeah.
I
So
think-
thank you.
I think it was that episode 17 with Razor and Rooter on the 100th anniversary episode, and after that, Jeff's like, that's what we need to do. And it went from there.
Yeah, we had a lot of laughs. That was a good
Yeah.
time.
I remember the first guest we had on. We had Pi on as the first guest, and we were sharing a microphone,
Oh,
Yeah.
really?
swapping it back and forth. But they were on this time.
We were huddled around,
Yep.
and we go like, "Are you sure you want to be associated with this?" He goes, "Serve it up, let's go." Like he didn't care. So
If you know Pi, you know he's in.
Oh, yeah.
Jeff Morris sitting there on the church bench, the church pew, and the urban
Yeah.
barber. Come on, Jeff. No, not going on.
sitting
There's
there
some
for the
guys.
entire
I
episode.
won't name names, but we got a great show for next week. Maybe we'll see if we'll elaborate, but definitely there's going to be promos leading up to these guys. These are
And then-
three beauties. But
You're such a tease.
The
Ranger.
week, and then but the week after the next week's big. The week after is huge.
yeah, it
After
is.
speaking of Fitty,
50. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, being at the Irish game, holy moly, I was being cornered. Who's on the list? And at the time, I didn't know. So I'm looking at them going, guys, I honestly don't know who's on
There's
the list.
11 people that know.
Yeah. So,
And actually, some of them don't because some of them just didn't open the email attachment. So
really?
yeah. So the numbers, it's quite close to the thing. And
I was laughing when you had sent it to me and you had mentioned a guy's name, and I'm going, he's not on the list. And you go, yes, he is.
yeah, because I had just done his bio.
Okay.
I had just done his bio like that morning.
And I texted
And I'm
you
sitting there
that-
going, oh,
I texted you last night watching the Bills game. I go, Les, he's not on my list. And
he's
you're going,
he's there.
"Oh,
I
sorry."
fixed it. I fixed
Yeah.
it. He's there.
Because it
It's-
went from 23 to 25.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It just happened when I was doing his bio. I probably clicked on something, dragging his stats over to the bio page because it's there's some people I just amazed at some of the bios that I've done,
Well,
and there's one guy in particular I've done his bio, and he is the most decorated warrior Colton actually in history. And
Well, I'll tell you, reading through it last night, watching football, I was going down memory lane looking at all the guys when I first started watching, the Cullitons and then evolving into the Warriors. And so it was great. Thank you for sharing that list with us. We put it on Facebook. So
Yeah, go to
It's out there
go to
now.
our social media and check it out. See what you think.
yeah, we just ruined the reveal show.
Yeah, yeah.
All right.
So, exciting times. Yeah,
but the show
looking
gets
forward
here.
to it.
Try and act surprised.
Yeah.
That's right.
yeah.
And as always, welcome, Holly. I don't think we need to point you out every time, but appreciate you back in the saddle.
We appreciate being pointed at.
Oh, there you
once
go.
in a while.
Well,
You get to
excellent.
my age, you just want to get somebody to point at you.
Yeah, there you go. Back in the saddle. And again, for those who are listening who missed last week, Razor and I hosted a podcast on here at the Chirpers with Paul Barton and Dan Forget, and they did a great job.
So many good
Great job.
comments.
Absolutely.
My phone was lighting up later that last Monday night and then into Tuesday saying, wow, that was great. Going down memory lane with those guys and
100%.
just the stories, right? And,
Yeah.
and it's unfortunate because, and we warned them before they came on, like, hey guys, like, you're going to feel like you're in a locker room, but once you put the headset on and the microphone, you kind of, like a deer in headlights.
Yeah.
Not that Barney and Dan were like that, but after we went off, and we talked a little bit about it there last week where Barney's like, oh, I should have told that story about Jay Miller having Lou Lamorello in a headlock. And I'm like, Barney, you're killing me. Like, that would have been
Oh,
fantastic.
we got to have you back.
Yeah, yeah.
I was suffering from the scurvy, so
Yeah.
it's all good now.
Yeah. Les was
I'll never
down
forget
and
my
out.
dad coached midget hockey in the 70s. And he coached that age group.
Okay.
And he was coaching what were then the Dominion chain minor midgets. And he was supposed to get Barton and Skinner and Chisholm, but they were too good. So they moved up to major midget.
Okay.
So the following season, he applied for and got the major midgets and went up and goes, okay, now I'm going to get those three guys. And they moved up with the juniors.
Yeah.
So, I just wanted to have if Barney's listening, I just want to let you know, he's 84, my dad, but he's still a little bitter about that. Right? He figures I would have won everything. They went to the Ontario finals
Oh, yeah.
without those guys. So one of two things is for sure. Either he would have won that series if he had them, or maybe they just weren't that good.
Right. Yeah. Well, and Barney said that year on the Cullitons, they had like 7 or 8 off the midget team that made the junior B team. Like, that's unheard of.
crazy.
Yeah. That's big time.
Yeah. So,
Good stuff.
yeah.
Well,
Well, one thing
Massive.
we didn't get around to last week was any NHL talk.
And
so
now there was a
lots.
massive trade in the NHL.
Right.
Does that open the floodgates?
I think you're going to see a lot of teams try and do stuff before the deadline.
Yeah.
That kind of seems to be the norm, right?
The break, the four-nation break strikes me that maybe that's when some extra, because they'll have more time on their
Right.
hands for phone calls and emails and exchanging stuff. And so, yeah, I expect a little more action going on there. Once we know what it's like, right? Once that first domino falls, generally they start lining up and let's
Right.
go.
Yeah, for sure.
Get while the getting's good, as it were.
It was a huge deal. And the boy, it was funny. We were in St. Thomas, and in between periods, Chase Windsor comes up. He goes, "I know this isn't Junior B related," he says, "but there's a huge trade going on." And I'm on the air, right? I'm going, "Okay, not Junior B related, but this massive trade that's going to happen in the NHL, folks. You might want to look it up.
Right.
It's going to be huge."
Yeah.
So the fallout from that was really interesting, because everything that the Avalanche were saying was he wants more money than McKinnon.
Right. Yeah.
He's stuck on $14 million, and then the article comes out afterwards at Rantington saying I was willing to take a big discount to stay with them.
Sure he was.
You know what I mean? So I mean, I just find that strange that somebody's lying to me.
I would have to think that Elliot Friedman reported, and he's got his finger on the pulse pretty good, and he reported that he wanted Draisaitl money, and they offered him, what was it?
The last offer they had it was 11.5, and that was on
11.75
Wednesday.
times 8.
Yeah.
So for
The
8
12.5 was the hard cap.
Yeah.
They weren't going to go over McKinnon's money. Now
Right.
they did say this week that they'll go over it with Makar.
Well, and that was that's what Rantanen was informed of.
Yeah.
We're willing to go over McKinnon's salary, but it's only one person, and that is Makar.
Right.
We want you to stay. This is what we have. And you know what I think it was is Joe Sakic doesn't mess around.
No.
And
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it was a good move because they lost a superstar, probably top 10 player in the league.
Yep.
If you think you're better than the team, you're not going to be on the team.
It's going to be interesting because obviously Carolina got the best player in the trade, but he would have been, and it would have only been for a short period of time, but he would have been the highest paid winger. Panarin's getting 11.64, so he would have been the highest paid winger in the NHL. That wasn't good enough, though. And so he ended up, like, you take a guy like Sidney Crosby. Give me 8.7 because I want you to take that extra money and surround me so that we actually have a chance to go win a cup. Those guys don't care about it, but
Well, there's multiple examples of those around the league, and I look at Boston, and I know they're fading off a little bit, but they've had that culture for probably over a decade now.
But
that's really worked for them.
Yeah, but it was funny. Once Rantanen moved, then the Crosby rumors started that
Like
he was going to
immediately.
Colorado, and
Yeah.
they've come out and said Crosby said there's not a chance he's leaving Pittsburgh.
Exactly.
Which is his prerogative. He's earned that right. I do think Colorado did well on the trade. Those two kids,
ya?
yes.
Nash Cash is a good.
Natchez is
he's not very good defensively. Not that that's what they were looking for, but he's a second line player.
They don't.
Well, he's
win
right now. He's in the
3-2.
top 15 of the league.
Yeah.
Nikas or
They don't
how do you
win.
pronounce it?
Natchez.
They
So
don't
they-
win 2-1 as a rule. Colorado, they're 5-4.
They're the running gun.
And Drury was the other one, and that was
Jury scored last night.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's like a fourth liner jury from what I've been reading. But yeah, what is it, Natchez?
and they have Natchez, but they have term, right? And
like-
that's the big thing. They have term on their contract. right?
Natchez is scoring at just over an 80-point pace, so that's not too bad. But they said he's not very good defensively.
Well, can I make maybe an observation? And I'm not questioning anything that you're saying, Razor, but do you not think if he has some reps with McKinnon, that McKinnon pulls him up from 80 to 100 like he did with a Rantanen? And I think that's the
could
thing that
very
you
well
see.
be.
We had our group chat there on Saturday and throwing around a bunch of stuff, and I just think to myself, Rantanen, there's no question he's a talent. There's no question that he's going to deliver in Carolina. But I can't help but think about a guy by the name of Sergei Fedorov thinking he was bigger than Detroit, and he went off to Anaheim and just lost his way.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm hoping that in Rantanen, because like you mentioned, Holly, which is a great point, was him and Aho should be able to put something together to be very, positive. But
Yeah.
I just think to myself, Aho's no damn McKinnon. tell you that much.
No.
But chemistry is everything.
Yep.
Yeah.
And if the whole becomes greater than the sum of the parts, then it's worth it, right? But your point was also well made in the fact that if you want to be paid more than McKinnon, then you're the guy that's bringing other guys up, not the other way around. It's not up to Aho to bring you up. It's up to you to bring Aho up.
Right.
Yeah.
And we shall see. I mean, there's lots of examples in the league over the decades when guys put up big numbers and their center iceman left.
Yeah.
They were separated from their center iceman, and then they didn't have big numbers, or they had better numbers. You know, you go all the way back to the 80s or 90s, like Bernie Nichols. You know, Bernie Nichols was a solid player. He was a good scorer, probably even an all-star, a 30-goal-a-year player. And then Wayne showed up in L.A. and he scored 70.
Yeah.
That's an extreme example, but the point, I think, is well made, the fact that you just got to see it's a whole new, it's like one of them handfuls of nuts and bolts, right? Just a whole new ballgame.
And another big talk about that trade, everybody's going, why was Chicago in on it? Well, Chicago was solely in on it for the fact that Carolina needed somebody to take some salary. They don't want to be cash strapped at the deadline. And Chicago also gets rid of Taylor Hall.
And his salary.
And his salary and gets a draft pick.
Chicago's the one that I'm left, scratching my head. They're the one that has taken on all the salary. And
Well, because they got the room.
Oh, yeah.
they
They're
do
barely
have the
making
room,
floor,
but
aren't
all they get is a third-round pick.
Yeah, that's all they wanted. But they just
They
Now,
just
that
want
was
to
their
suck
own
Some,
pick.
They
some-
have to
something for the effort.
Yeah.
So it's going to be like a high third.
it's a
round.
deep draft this year
Right.
too, right?
Well,
Fine.
that's the thing. Like, we saw at the World Juniors what the draft is going to look like at the top end. And Chicago needs to be in on one of those top three picks.
Yeah.
They have to be. Like the train wreck that is the Hawks right
Right.
now. They've got one guy. One guy does not do it. They need another one, probably and preferably a defenseman. So you've got that McKinnon-Makar potential to have with Bedard and is it Hudson?
Hudson.
Yeah. The guy who I think doesn't get enough talk about is Tulsky, the GM of Carolina. So Rantanen and Jake Gunsel. Now, they weren't able to re-sign Gunsel. They ended up trading him, as we all know.
He's in Tampa Bay.
Yeah. But in order to get those two guys, they gave up 0 first-round picks and 0 of their top 4 prospects.
Well, the reason why they got that with Gunsel is because his contract was up at the end of the year.
Right.
So,
So,
it's
they
more
got
of
him
a rental.
from Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And
So-
so, but they
Yeah.
didn't have to give up. They didn't have to mortgage the future,
right.
As where Carolina's probably going to sign Rantanen, but there's no guarantee. He's a UFA. Once
Well,
the
what's to
season's
say he
over.
doesn't go back to Colorado?
I don't know if they have salary cap money
Yeah.
now, right?
It's hard
But-
to say.
But it theoretically,
Elliot
it could
Friedman
happen.
was saying today at lunch, I believe, that he, with conviction, believes that the salary cap this upcoming season will be 97. Was it
97
less?
million.
97
What's it,
million.
88 now?
88.
It's
so
it's the limit it can go to because it can only be so much percentage
for
of
inflation.
The, yeah.
Okay.
It can only be so much percentage of
Revenue.
revenue.
Yeah.
Revenue. Yeah.
But expanding on what you were saying, and I think it was Friedman saying it. I was reading this morning that they project the salary cap to be at $100 million in the next couple of years.
But the
Yeah.
problem
3
is you got
years.
to remember though, if the salary cap goes up, the floor goes up.
Right.
Right.
So there's teams that are going to have to take on cap space just to get to the floor.
But they said, though, that there are teams, and they think that Colorado is already setting the standard, that don't want to go to the cap,
Wow.
like ceiling. And they said that teams have already sent memos internally saying, when that cap gets up that high, we have no
yeah,
desire.
but somebody's going to, and everybody will follow suit.
That's
It's-
a big jump, man. That's $9 million.
Right. And so, like, these guys are billionaires. They
Mm-hmm.
they're in the business of making money. I hope it doesn't become something like the Pittsburgh
I,
Pirates.
I think the first year Doug McLean was still the GM in Columbus, and he was saying that his small market team that he was a GM of, their floor the first time the cap came in was like, I think it was like 27 million, and don't quote me on that, but it was something really, really low. And he had to find ways to spend it because they just didn't
Right.
have the capital to spend
Right.
on any type of player.
Yeah, yeah.
Like when you have the teams that fight against the ceiling and you have teams that fight against the floor. And unfortunately, it'll always be that way. That's the business of the sport when you have a cap. Smaller market teams, you might, can they compromise their well-being in their city? I think so. Maybe they're trying to delegate who's in and who's out. They're going to be introducing apparently a new couple teams in a couple of years for expansion. So it'll just be interesting if they actually gain teams and cities, or if they lose some in the meantime and the number maybe stays the same at 32. If they gain 2 but lose 2, like it'll be interesting to see in the business aspect of the sport.
Well, and they're talking as well in the next CBA of going back to a 50-50. I'm not 100% sure what the split is right now, but they're talking about in the next CBA, the owners and players splitting it 50-50. And they said that's another reason why the owners are not wanting to go anywhere near the salary cap.
And when they were talking about the cap, like they said, if you take out the COVID years, they would have been at 100 by now anyways.
Yeah, fair.
So
yeah, they lost all the leagues.
A lot of money they had to pay back.
Maybe not the NFL.
I think the rule is in the NHL, if I remember Bob McCown was saying not too long ago, there is 17 of the 32 that get into profits.
Yeah.
Right.
That's not very encouraging, but when you have that big of a league with operational costs and travel and sometimes like you can even look at the Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. If you go in there on a Tuesday night and they're playing, I don't know, Utah, is it full? Probably not. Now, you're not going to gain your season by one home game, but if that's a trend, that's your box office.
Right.
Like that's how you generate the money that you have to fork out. So it'll be interesting,
So here's a little food for thought for you guys. NHL revenue by team 23-24. Toronto Maple Leafs $324 million. You got the value in, and then you got the New York Rangers at 370. And it's just ridiculous.
Where does it go to where it's a loss?
Yeah.
Does it go down that far?
No.
Well, the big boys are the big boys.
Yeah.
You got New York Rangers. You got
I'm trying
Toronto
to see.
Maple Leafs.
There's
got
got to be a
Montreal
list.
Canadiens.
Montreal, yeah. I would have to think Chicago.
Here we
is
go.
like
The
one of
bottom team in the NHL in revenue. Arizona Coyotes, when this was published, $120 million.
Yeah.
Revenue?
Revenue.
And there's talk about them getting a team. If they can get that
Those
arena
must
thing figured out.
incorporate TV deals or something,
Yeah,
because there's no way you
it's
make
gotta- it's gotta have
$120
the
million
TV.
with a 5,000 seat
It's got to have
capacity
the
arena.
TV.
Yeah.
But the evaluation of that team at the time was only $500 million. So
Only.
And he sold it for $1 billion.
Well, that's
That's crazy.
what's the ROI on $1 billion for the Arizona team? You know what I mean? I think the term you're looking for is never.
It
Yeah.
gets you an obstructed view at a Utah game.
It's
I
an
think that's what-
ROI of never.
it's just crazy how much money there is in these sports.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Well,
Hey.
I mean, just clearly we're missing something because the Toronto Maple Leafs, the other ones,
Yeah.
the baseball Toronto Maple Leafs of the IBL, they sold for $1 million.
Yeah.
Really?
They don't even get revenue from their home park.
Yeah.
Like-
So you start to think at that point, Holly, and don't quote me, or I wipe my hands clean of this comment. You think it might be other business going on,
Well, here's what I know, and
if you're catching my drift.
old Jack Domenico, if you follow the league at all, I mean the Cups, their championship trophies named after Jack and Lynn Domenico. And he used to really take care of his players. I know because there's one that lives in Stratford right now who's an old friend of mine who back in the 90s was getting
Yep.
$1,200 a week
Really?
when you get hit like him, you get paid, right? But the thing at the time was his best buddy was a Labatt VP.
Okay.
And so they had massive sponsorship from Labatt.
Uh,
Like I said, Christie Pitts, one of the worst ballparks that I played in 100 ballparks, and that is the worst one. It's not even close as far as I'm concerned. It is the hottest one during the day.
right.
There's no stands. I mean, it just
It's
sits.
on a
The reason
hill,
it's so hot
isn't
is
it?
because it's the bottom of a hill right in the middle of downtown Toronto,
Yes.
near Bloor Street in Toronto. So there's no wind unless it is an absolute gale force wind. The fans come and they sit on the grass on the hill.
To get the wind off the lake.
And there is almost no foul territory, so everything goes out of play. The benches are what remind me of Sebringville,
Yeah.
back in the slow pitch days.
Wow.
So, like,
And
how
yet they got a franchise worth $1 million. So I guess my long-winded way of making a point is that if those guys can sell for $1 million, an NHL hockey team suddenly becomes.
do you think it would be anything that it would be obtaining one of the richest real estate properties in that area?
Well, it's owned by the city.
What's that? The
ballpark.
Christie
ballpark?
Pitts,
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. I just wondered, right?
So
Because it's like,
that's
what
a-
$1
no, it's a good
million
point. If you own
doesn't
the
make.
ballpark,
Yeah.
then $1 million is cheap for downtown Toronto property. And most likely, if you own the ballpark, a savvy business person would come in and pay you whatever you want for it,
Yeah.
and then raise the ballpark. Or there's actually 3 of them in that complex.
Yep.
Yeah.
You'd raise that and build high rises.
It's funny you say
And it'll
that,
be
Holly,
worth
because I was
tens
all
of millions.
excited. I heard all the nostalgia about Christie Pitts, and when I was living there, I drove down on a Sunday afternoon and watched the Red Sox in town, and I'm like, this is Christie Pitts.
This is it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, like,
It
the
wasn't.
ball carries
I,
out of there like stink. It's unbelievable. Like
Yeah.
pop flies go
Carry.
out. They carry out.
Voices
I mean,
carry.
Yeah.
That's,
Great song.
it's
Hush,
crazy.
hush.
Yeah.
So that's maybe a topic for another day. But
Now we're just getting you warmed up.
well, yeah.
Well, this might get
we
him
are gonna
warmed
talk
up.
about OCS.
Do you
Super
think?
Hockey League
Do you think
football.
Mitch Marner's rubbing his hands now that Rantanen?
Well, am I off on making a parallel here between Rantanen and
Marner?
and Marner?
No, that's where I was going. 100%.
That's what
because
Razor's asking. Yeah.
because now you've got Treliving who's backed into a corner. Rantanen just set the bar for what you can expect. You're not going to trade one of the top all-time Leafs for the haul that Colorado got. Like, in my opinion, it wasn't enough.
So-
but now what do they do? I think they have to give Marner $13 million or whatever he wants.
We got a question from a listener, Jerry Broadhagen. What I don't understand is how did Chicago benefit from this? Well, they benefited. They
Well, they just got their
they
third
stay on the
back.
floor and they
They're
got rid of
worse.
Taylor Hall.
The idea is you're supposed to be
Yeah.
worse than you were yesterday because they
Because
like I
they
said
need
earlier,
they need all the balls they can get.
They need a top 3 pick.
They're ponying up in the 32nd position,
they
and
are.
you get the biggest percentage of the lottery. So
And they're not the only team that is in
Nope,
the
San Jose is
NHL
looking for that.
in the race to the basement.
Fountain's
now-
driving through Minnesota listening to us.
Is
Man,
he?
what a great guy. That John Fountain guy. No matter what you guys say about him,
Right?
he's okay in my
Oh,
book.
and we said some stuff about him. Make no mistake.
that was during the break, and that was confidential.
Right.
folks. So
Yeah, drive safely, buddy.
Yeah.
thinking of you on your travel out, and just a quick story about Founts. He's driving his wonderful young daughter out to a
Kennedy.
new Kennedy for a
Yeah.
new job opportunity in Vancouver.
Yeah.
I was
So,
going to say, if you're going to the sunny South Founts, it ain't Minnesota.
Took a wrong turn.
Wrong turn.
Wrong turn at Kentucky or
Wrong
something.
turn at Minneapolis.
But
Map was upside
happy
down.
travels and safe travels. Our good friend Johnny Founts.
Yeah. Love you, buddy. So,
Also, another big interesting thing happened last week. Gary Bettman sort of alluded to retirement.
yeah.
And I heard a lot of, I heard a big
I
noise
wondered
when
what
he
the
announced-
noise was.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
There was a lot of, oh man.
Who are they going to boo at the draft if he leaves?
Do you think Bill Daly gets that job if he steps down? I don't know how that works.
I don't know.
Well, it's
He's
yeah,
overqualified, I think.
Bill Daly?
Steve Eiserman.
okay.
Steve Eiserman put a name out there.
Who's that?
I just saw it, and if I'm listening to Steve Eiserman, which you probably could.
Steve, if you could just text in.
Yeah, just let us know who
the
that
names
was.
We
like
know you're
Chester
listening.
does.
I got my alarm on
White.
silent, so just shoot me a quick text, buddy. No problem.
I don't give him my number. He just doesn't leave me alone.
He handed it out at an after 8 party one night and never lived it
You're
down.
never going to forget that, Holly.
Oh,
That's one of the best of all time.
Yeah,
on
I'll have to
this
find
show.
that, but Eiserman.
Yeah. Well,
But
I don't know. But in other news, Logan Thompson.
Yeah.
Just the news just came out this afternoon. Signed a 5 or a 6 year extension?
And well deserved too.
Oh, absolutely. And the cap hit's only about $5.5 million.
And
Okay.
then
So talk about value.
Yeah.
we also had our first player back out of the Four Nations. Petrangelo's not going to go. He's going to
Petrangelo's
take
done,
care of some problems he's got. And Drew Doughty comes out and says, "I don't want the break, guys." Hint, hint.
right.
yeah.
Has he played yet?
No.
No.
He's not
Yeah.
even close to
No,
being
he's not
ready.
close. But he like he's
Some idiot told me to take him in the pool.
It's going to
it
be
was okay till he
interesting.
broke his ankle.
I still don't know if Matthew. I honestly, if I was Treliving,
He should follow suit.
I think he should too, right?
Yeah.
The last thing he needs is to be
He's
getting
still
into that.
not.
No, he's not.
Well,
He's
isn't
still
it
not
interesting that
doing well.
now that we're getting up close to it, and let's face it, it's not exactly drumming up a ton of business, this Four Nation Cup. I mean,
No.
I'm not gonna lie. Outside of this venue, I haven't given it 5 minutes of thought.
Yeah.
Right.
Of course, now after yesterday's football, I got more time to think about such things. But
Yeah, something happened yesterday. I don't know
know.
why.
I think though too, Holly, and I can appreciate what you're saying, but I kind of think that sometimes about the juniors at Christmas, and I'm not trying to compare a whole lot, but I don't start kind of paying attention till the exhibition games start, kind of get a feel who the players are, how they're looking, stuff like that, and that's just simply my opinion.
yeah,
and
no,
certainly not
and it's
discounting
just,
yours.
I agree, and I agree
But,
with you to the point
I
where
think there's going to be a lot of heat around it. Like I think it's I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I'm just looking forward to seeing our team and
I just
It's hard to
really
say.
hate the fact that the Russians aren't there.
Yeah.
It just takes a
It
big.
does.
maybe they
It-
should
it
clean up their
does
act.
suck,
Yeah.
right?
You know?
Maybe
Maybe-
somebody should talk to Putin.
Maybe you
and-
should get the hell out of Ukraine.
Yeah.
Well,
Anyways,
I'll tell
I
you.
Just do it. Isn't that what Nike said? Just
Yeah.
do it.
I just,
do it.
we were just kind of playing around on break this morning about some names, and we just went over the goaltending that's not going to be at the tournament. The Russians, like
Shesterkin,
the depth in goaltending.
Vasilevsky,
Bobrovsky.
Bobrovsky.
You know what I
yeah,
mean?
The
It's
three
just,
of them.
You got. We came up with 6 solid Russian goaltenders.
Yeah.
And he-
Shesterkin,
yeah,
like
yeah.
3 of
the
them.
guy in the Islanders.
Yeah, exactly. I
You
mean,
know?
and then
Yeah.
of course they can put together certainly a dangerous top 2 at least lines.
Well, I was just going to
they
say,
never were known for their defensemen,
Right.
but the forward lines would be deep and scary. Really, I mean, it's
like,
just a shame.
and that's what I guess I'm wondering, and I'm pleading ignorance here because off the top of my head, I can't think of, absolute pivotal players right now in the NHL. Well, besides Ovechkin at age 40. And I know there's more, so I'm not discounting the Russians, and I'm not discounting your disappointment that Russia's not in it. But are they a
Kucherov.
powerhouse anymore?
I think I think
They'd probably
They're-
would they invite? Here's a question: are these teams able to invite from like the KHL or from anywhere, or is it just NHL showcase?
I don't know.
It's
Good
just the
question.
NHL.
I
Just the
don't
Just the
NHL
NHL.
because it's sanctioned by the NHL.
Yep.
Is that what it is? Sanctioned
Yep.
by the NHL?
Yep.
Less, yeah. So that'd be interesting to find out.
Right.
Because I agree, Holly. What's an official tournament without the Russians in it?
I mean,
Honestly,
even the World Juniors is like,
Yeah.
we're missing
Right.
something here.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
missing a front tooth, like
you're
not a
you're
side
supposed
molar.
to you're supposed to play the U.S. on New Year's Eve, but then we're supposed to play the Russians in the playoff round.
Right.
Of course, you got to beat the crappy teams first, but
So just to throw some Russian names at you: Malkin, Kucherov, Panarin, Tarasenko, Buzhnetskiv, Kirill Kaprizov in Minnesota.
Yeah.
So there's some names there.
Svechnik,
Yeah.
Dadonov.
And thanks for bringing that up
Yeah.
because I was
Radulov,
wondering, right?
Radulov.
Yeah.
Back,
Any
like,
other off guy?
Igor
off him.
Havabrewski.
I think that's why they're not in it.
Right.
But no, it's just
Yeah.
interesting because you used to know the Russians
Yeah.
in the league like big time. You
Oh,
wouldn't
yeah.
have to Google it, right?
Well,
But,
for a long time, it was like first line was always going to be Malkin and Ovechkin, which
Right.
was enough to scare the hell out of you
Yeah.
all by itself, right?
Yeah.
But then when they could throw out, Samsonov too. I forgot
Samsonov,
about
yeah.
Ilya Samsonov. Like,
Yeah.
so I was
Yeah.
shocked. How is it that the Russians have, twice the goaltending depth that Canada does?
Yeah.
Which is that's a topic for another pod, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
We're writing it down, Holly. We're writing it down.
But anyways, I will watch, obviously, because you like to see hockey played by the highest level guys.
Yeah.
It's a nice break from the league. I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, maybe last time I was on, that I have this down time on the NHL right after World Juniors. There's that immediacy and excitement about the World Juniors. And then you go back to the NHL and go, oh, they're only half done.
Yeah.
Do you know what's
Like
wild?
they're 40 games away from the friggin' playoffs.
Yeah.
Do you know what I've really learned to enjoy is the Saturday afternoon games that the NHL's running. On the weekend, it was the Avs in Boston. And for Rantanen out of the lineup, and what is it, Natchez, sorry, I'm going to continue to probably mispronounce it. And Drury were in the lineup for Colorado. Man, Colorado wasn't looking in the rear view, or they were looking in the rear view.
Were they?
Like Colorado, in the middle of the second period, had 25 shots. Boston had 6.
Yeah.
And they were playing well. Boston ended up winning, so go figure.
I was going to say it was only 1-0 at that point.
Yep.
too.
And they were playing well. Great game. Playoff atmosphere. Really well. It was in Boston, so lots of noise, lots of stuff going on. And then the very next game, here's a thing for you. Put it on your calendar. You're not paying as much as you would in Toronto, but you want to go see your Edmonton Oilers in Buffalo. Probably one of the biggest reasons you want to go see them in Buffalo is because you want to see.
They? Is it March?
No, they were there on Saturday.
They were there on
They were
Saturday.
yeah.
They
So-
were in Ed Buffalo.
Yeah.
Ed Buffalo.
So you show up, all that, and what happens? Your captain gets suspended 3 games, and you miss a chance to see him.
Yeah.
I watched that game, and you mentioned too, Holly, that you did. It was all Edmonton Oilers, all of the arena.
Yep.
It was unbelievable in Buffalo.
Yeah.
It's too bad.
It is too bad. I
Yeah, to
don't
be
know.
clear for the audience, we're not talking about the way the game went. We're talking up in the stands. It
Yeah.
was all Oiler jerseys.
That's why I worry for
But,
Buffalo.
and
I do.
and that's a thing in Buffalo. That's the problem they have in Buffalo. They tried to go to the extreme of only allowing people in the right zip code to order tickets.
Right.
But then they were losing revenue at games.
Yeah.
So they quickly turned that back around, figuring, oh, wait, we have a couple thousand, 10,000 or more
Unbelievable.
fans from Ontario that come down for every game.
Right.
And we weren't selling them tickets.
Well,
So-
talking about atmosphere, should we be concerned when Austin Matthews comes out and starts talking about the lack of atmosphere in the lower bowl after Reeves and Matthew Olivier had that fight?
Is he
From
wrong?
Columbus.
Getting no reaction hardly whatsoever.
Did you see
from
the fight?
I did not.
That was a
I
great
did.
heavyweight tilt.
It was probably one of the best fights of the
Yep.
year, and you didn't hear you
Yep.
could hear a pin
Is
drop.
is
So-
but
No joke.
is Austin Matthews wrong? No, he's not.
No.
It is a corporate arena.
But is that
Yes.
new? No.
No,
What,
it's
like,
not.
what took? I guess my only question is, how long has Matthews been there, and how is that the first he's noticed that?
Yeah.
I mean, if you
But
watch
good
a
for
Leaf
him.
game, you can watch the first 8 minutes of a period, and
Yeah.
if you look
Yeah.
past the ice to
All
the
the-
first,
all the
it's empty.
platinums. All
They're
the
all
fight-
platinums are
They're
in.
all
That
getting
fight-
sushi.
Yeah.
As Jeff said, that fight was probably one of the best fights
was a
I've seen in
great
a long
fight
time.
if you're into
Two
such
heavyweights that went at it, and
It was
they
it was
went
a draw.
at it.
It was
Yep.
a draw, I think. Reeves got stunned a little bit, but he came back and held his own. Like, it was a great fight. The thing about
His
it is,
first fight
though,
of the year.
when we're talking about
something.
revenues and so on, is Toronto has exactly what they want.
Yep.
Is guaranteed
Oh,
corporate
yes.
money.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a father or a mother with their kids, you can't go to that game.
No.
Like
no.
I'm sure they
Right.
announce the same attendance every single time
Pretty
because
much.
it's always a sellout.
Yeah.
And because you don't count the bodies in the seats, you count the tickets you sold
Those
and
who- yeah.
the
I mean,
season ticket holders.
Yeah.
That's now. To be fair, that's not exclusive to Toronto. I
No,
mean,
but
Stratford does.
Stratford
the same
does it,
thing. You know,
All,
they say
everybody
like,
does
somebody
because they
said
made
it.
They
they
said-
made monies
Stratford.
off
They
it.
said 700 at Wednesday's game, and there's that's
Yeah, kind of like the shots on goal ish.
700. It wasn't bad. It's so deceiving. And when we were in Waterloo Sunday,
yeah,
they
it
were saying
was because
600.
a lot of
'cause
people
it's-
came
yeah.
dressed as empty seats.
Yeah, it's, but it is that you count. You always count. You count your season ticket holders because you've made money off.
No,
that
and
game.
I'm not. I'm
Yeah.
just saying those people bought tickets, whether they show up or not. It's
Right.
paid attendance.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is a bit of a
Because Sarnia
smoky
is
beer.
like that. Sarnia
bit
always has
duplicitous.
big numbers because they have season ticket holders.
Yeah, Sarnia is always number 1 or 2 or 3 for
Yeah,
years.
they've
were
dropped
1, 2, or
down this
3,
year,
but They
but-
have because
yeah.
I think they maybe started counting by ones. But that's just
Only if they count shots like that in Listowel, for Listowel,
or
we'd be
tip-
okay.
And I just saw it. A guy at work showed me today. There was now the Streetsville Derbies. Are
Yep.
they in the P now? The PJ?
I think so.
Okay, and they're playing Glanbrook,
Glanbrook, yep.
which is Niagara
Yep.
way. Allegedly, on the website, that Glanbrook had 50 shots in the third period.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It was right there on the website.
Was the recorder sitting in the blue line?
Well,
cloth,
I
or-
have no
I
idea.
got to think. I think every time somebody from Glenbrook touched the puck, they counted it as a
But
shot.
that's, I mean, you just like I think he started counting during the warm up. Like that's the first thing I thought. I was like, I'm not sure there's 50 shots in the warm up.
Like I think every pass was a shot too, because
50 shots in the
Yeah.
third period
Yeah.
alone.
That's a little
And
much.
It's out for jury because
I
I
can't
see some
even-
of those numbers coming out of some of the leagues, and
I have a couple
Just
of thoughts
not
about
too
that.
sure.
Kick me
Right.
right off
Yeah.
the show if I say 'em.
especially when you're sitting there, you're watching, and somebody dumps the puck from their own end, and it goes right to the goalie, and then you see the number change on the shot clock, and it's like, that's not a shot on net.
There's
Come
clearly
on.
two buttons, one that goes up by one and the other one that's the 10 button. And so, I mean, the game was, I think it was a 3-2 hockey game.
Yeah.
So, guys, I wanted to throw a question around the panel because Les today on our social media page showed on your page you showed the Warriors crawled back up into second in the division, which is great for today. But I'm looking. We're talking about the Atlantic, and we're talking about how close it is. We also talk about the parity in the league, and we also talk about how soft the Atlantic is.
Right.
So I just want to maybe go around the table and talk about like what you're seeing as a hockey fan. You know, Holly, you have your team. They're in the Metropolitan, I believe.
Yep.
The Atlantic is a little bit soft. But is it the parity or is it soft? Like, what is it?
It can be both, but it isn't usually.
Right.
At the end of the day, I mean, you have to give props to Toronto, who've had a really good season. You have to give also props to a very, very good Florida team. You also have to look at Ottawa and see how much they've
Well, all of a
improved.
sudden they're in third in the Atlantic.
Well, yeah,
Sorry,
they're
I don't want to interrupt
Sorry.
Jeff's thing there.
Are you
Just to finish
sure?
that
Oh,
last
I'm-
thought. Just to finish that last. Go ahead, because they registered another 10 shots in overtime.
I had to look it up. I'm sorry, Jeff. I hate
No,
to
no
do
worries.
it, but I had to look it up.
Go ahead.
Glanbrook Rangers. Here's their shots on goal. First period, 19. Second period, 13. Third period, 50.
Yeah.
Overtime, 10.
Or it could be a typo. It could probably
Shootout,
lead
1.
to that.
Was it 5 or 50?
3-2
They're gonna
in a
go with the
shootout.
50.
3-2 final in a shootout. They had 93 shots on goal.
Yeah.
Wow, sorry. Okay.
That,
it's all good.
that even tops that old Ron Tugnutt game.
Tiger. Yes.
So
You didn't even get the question out that night,
Yeah.
Razor.
The
When
what?
you're asking about the Ron Tugnutt game, and you didn't get the question out, and Razor
Right.
goes, Ron
yeah,
Tugnutt.
yeah.
Ronnie Tugnutt. He was also in goal for the tennis balls.
those tendies stick together, don't they? I tell you what. Anyway, you know what? I think it is I think you just got to respect the bottom teams in that division
Yep.
that are really scratching points. The Bostons and the
Lightning.
Ottawas and the Tampas, teams that were supposed to not really be top teams, but they're really scraping up points. They're really picking up points. You know, you mentioned Boston the other day. They're getting outshot 20-6 or whatever. They're down 1-0. I mean, it's so hard to score in the league now. And so teams, and you know, Montreal's probably the best example.
They're 2 points out
Montreal
of the
is
wild
clearly
card.
above.
Yeah.
Montreal's above expectations. Ottawa's
Yep.
above expectations.
Columbus.
Washington.
And Buffalo
Who
is
saw
all
that?
the expectations.
Buffalo is about
Well,
the only one that's really.
But again, and don't look now, and I know a lot can change in a week, literally.
Yeah.
But for Ottawa to be where they were and all the crazy stuff you're hearing about Kachuk leaving town and all this stuff, they're in third.
But the thing,
they're
if you've noticed Ottawa, they've learned to play defense.
they're
Is that
winning
what it
2-1
is?
hockey.
They've learned to
That's
play
the thing,
defense.
is that-
Like they
Which is
beat
huge.
Toronto Saturday night 2-1. When was the last time Toronto and Ottawa had a 2-1 game?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Ottawa has a few. of
But
them.
your goals for this year, you know, and it's a Berube brand, and we've talked about it. But you know,
Toronto's goals for.
I almost wonder about that because, listen, they're first. I'm not
Yeah. Well, it's-
gonna speak too loud, but you know, you wonder if a guy like Matthews is ever going to score 50 again.
Yeah.
Like just
no.
with how the system is, right?
That's right. With Berube in there, he does not care if Austin Matthews gets any accolades.
It's
He
not
wants the
about
team to
it's
win.
not about
Yeah.
one. It's about all, right?
And,
Yeah.
and I'm
at
good
this
with
point,
that.
Austin Matthews shouldn't care either because he's already got his big contract.
Exactly.
Yep.
So it's not like this is costing him money.
Right.
If you want to cement a legacy, as so many athletes at that level do, then you got to be still playing in June. And
Yeah.
and it really, they only have to do it once. It's not like they got to be like the Chiefs and win a whole bunch of titles.
Right.
They win one, they're cemented.
All the conversations
Absolutely.
end.
Yep.
All of them.
Yeah, they'll probably just end this podcast.
Yeah.
Probably just there's no point.
Whoa,
We
whoa,
we
whoa,
bring up
whoa.
it'd probably
'Cause
be
there'd be
like
no living
a
with
book
these.
club or something. Like, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I, just personally, I
Right.
like this. So go Toronto.
The team that really has surprised me is Washington.
That's been recorded.
I'm
Everybody
kidding.
hear that one?
right.
Yeah, that Washington team is just
It's just lights
Bonkers.
out. Like they've got the GM of the year, they've got the coach of the year, and
They've
a
got the goaltender of the year.
Goalie's
They got-
lights out. Like and then you've got a 40-year-old left winger.
20 goals, and they're at game 49, and there's 82 in the season.
Ovechkin might win
It
the
com-
Masterson
it
in the same year.
completely win it or beat that this year.
So here's a question
That's
for the
crazy.
panel. Why do I feel the same about Washington that I do about Winnipeg?
Winnipeg. Yeah.
I don't know. I think
Do we
You
really
hear-
think
you hear
Pierre-Luc
crickets for a
Dubois is
reason.
going to go into the playoffs
Absolutely
and score a
not.
point a game?
Yeah.
I think
Dylan Strome maybe, but once you lock up with a team and they
In a
say
7-game series.
Ovechkin's not going to beat us. That's all you got to say. Ovechkin's not going to beat us. Is Pierre-Luc Dubois going to fight
Absolutely
through the
not.
playoff traffic,
Absolutely not.
congestion, and get to the net and score
good
goals?
points. He's never done it before.
He never
He's never
will.
done it in the league.
He
let
never
alone
will.
in the playoffs.
Yeah, like
So-
we had the one good year in Winnipeg, and that
Well, it wasn't a good year because he was statistic-wise, but he was
Right.
traded for several reasons. One of which he was a complete toxicity in the
Exactly.
room, right?
Right.
So you kind of wonder, and you kind of go back full circle to the Randon situation. And something that I wanted to say really quickly is, you can't tell me a top 10 player gets traded on an absolute snap of walking out of a meeting where he was offered, what was it, 11.75,
11.75.
and then he's traded on a Friday and nobody knew about it. There's got to be more to it than that. And I'm not saying he was into any mischief or anything, but if you hold the team over a barrel, we've seen examples of that. It puts you behind the 8 ball, and Colorado chose not to go that route.
Yep.
Yeah,
Is that right?
Yep.
They
I
drew
think
a
so.
line in the sand.
I don't blame Colorado one bit. It's a hell of a move, and they're probably a lesser talented team for it.
Yeah.
However, if you got to get rid of that, then that's what you do, and that's what they did.
That right there just shows that it's a business. Hey,
100%.
You are not bigger than our team. You are not going to get paid more than our superstar captain. So
And I'm not beating the dead horse
Yeah.
anymore about Toronto, but if Lou Lamoriello was the GM over Dubas, your team would look completely different.
Oh,
and
probably.
I'm not saying that they wouldn't assign the players,
Yeah.
but they would have sat them down and said, "This is what we can give you,
Yep.
and this is the reasons
You're-
why."
You're not wrong.
And
Yeah.
you might have a different
There's
look to your
a
team.
reason why they started calling him dumbass.
I'm not saying that Lamoriello is the answer. I just say it would have looked a lot different. I think.
Yeah.
Because that's what the players have done. Held them over a barrel, right? So
yeah,
So, just a quick getting back to Brian's point about the team saying they're not going to let Ovechkin score. I had a chance to talk to Anthony Stewart, formerly of the Carolina Hurricanes, Florida Panthers, Atlanta Thrashers.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I pointedly asked him about Ovechkin breaking Gretzky's record. And he said to me, the interesting thing is, you know where he's going to be. You just can't stop the guy.
right.
And he said every team puts a system in to try and stop him, and they can't. So
Yeah.
you
No,
know,
he's that good.
Yeah.
And the goalies are
Well,
so good too.
So here's the question.
he's able to find. He's one of these He's obviously a superstar. So he finds that empty space somehow all the time.
Like Hull used to do.
Yes.
Brett Hull
Yeah.
used to
Right.
do that.
Yes.
It's like, I'm going to pay attention to Hull.
Yari
and then
Curry.
So here's a
Mike
question.
Needs that little
Yeah.
opening, and he
They see the game differently.
Here's a
right?
question.
Okay.
Would you rather have a player on your team that's going to break the record for goals or more Stanley Cups?
Well, more
Obviously,
Stanley Cups, but
Well, it's not obvious. I'm just
Yeah.
wondering.
no, I'd want more
Depends,
Stanley
am I the
Cups.
coach or the owner? Because
Well, there you go.
you know,
Because right now,
If you're the
right now,
owner-
when
might be two different answers.
in Washington
Right.
right now, you're making hand over fist because everybody wants to be there to watch
Everybody
Ovechkin
wants
score
a piece
goals.
of that. Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
Those
They-
Ovechkin jerseys flying off the shelf.
Oh,
yeah. And
yeah.
you know what? Good for him. Good for him.
and And like
there is that black cloud over him, and that is that he's cost GM jobs, he's cost coaches jobs, and he was a bit of a handful to deal with through his career. And I don't see the same for the other examples that are around him, except maybe Yager. He had his toxicity through his career till he came back to the NHL from the KHL. But you look at the Gordie Howes, the Wayne Gretzky's, the Mark Messier's, all these examples of players that look a lot different in their career over an Ovechkin.
And what is the common thread with all those players?
Canadian?
They all played late into their 40s, almost all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Gretzky did
And
not, but yeah,
How old was he?
36.
37.
Well, he was close enough to the 40s.
Was he? No, he was older than that, wasn't he?
No,
Gretzky?
he came into the league in 79. He
Yeah.
was 17 years
Yeah.
old, and he
But he-
retired in
okay.
99.
Finished in 99. Yeah.
But then Anthony Stewart said that too. He says, you got to remember, this is a guy that's 39 years old, still playing at a high caliber level of hockey, recently broke his leg and came back
in 16 games.
in 16 games.
Just
he said,
unbelievable.
where would he be in goals if he wouldn't have been hurt a couple years ago when he had
Yeah.
shoulder problems
Well,
or
we could say
with
that about all
COVID
players.
or
Yeah, but
you could say that about
look at-
anybody.
How
Look
many
at-
would Gretzky
Yes.
have got if
How many
Suter
would
would have
100%.
banged him into the boards from behind?
Right.
It's
Lemieux
100%.
probably
Yep.
would have done
the
a lot.
Canada Cup.
Lemieux,
right?
if doesn't have cancer, how many does he
Yep.
score?
That's what
Right.
you're right. It's 100%. But
Yeah.
he made the
Pardon.
point. He said to be at 39 playing in the game the way it is now. That's pretty good.
It's true. It's true. There's
I
I
like-
don't know.
I guess my only thing is I feel like Wayne could have scored way more than he did, but he passed it. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's just,
Shoot the puck.
he passed it. He passed it. He's
It's
got
like you at an Irish game.
Well, that's right.
he's got more assists than anybody else has points, and he
Points.
still has the most goals.
That's crazy. Like that is
So,
like if you
I just-
compare that to any other league, like baseball, football, basketball, there is nobody that is like that stratosphere.
There's nobody that compares to that
No,
at any
no.
level in any. You know what I mean?
No,
It's just crazy.
It is like unfathomable that he is that far ahead. Like you hit the nail on the head. His assists,
Take away all his goals,
His
and he still is
892
the career
goals.
leader in points.
Right.
And he's got the most goals.
Unreal.
is
To say that out
crazy.
loud and to hear
It's
it is
crazy.
wild.
I love him. But what? Speaking of Russians, look at the Rangers. Everybody had them wrote off, and they were an absolute mess. People were calling for Chris Drury to be fired. They've only become the hottest team in the NHL, 7-0-3 their last 3 games, 3 points out of a wild card spot. Shesterkin's 6-0-1 in January.
But is that a trade bump?
They gave their captain away.
Yeah.
And now they're unbeaten in 10. They were
Who's this? Sorry,
dysfunctional.
Rangers?
They were
The
Rangers.
Yeah, Rangers.
They
yeah.
were in all the news.
Right.
Dysfunction. They want the GM fired.
Yeah.
There's just
It was a
upheaval,
train
all
wreck.
kinds. And then all of a sudden, very, very quietly. Well, it wasn't that quiet in my household because I had to sit and watch them pummel the crap out of my Flyers. I think they beat them 6-1 or 7-1. And then, like, all of a sudden, I looked and went, "Geez, these guys are hot."
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, they're unbeaten in 10.
Yeah.
And they're relevant again.
It's crazy.
Maybe, just maybe Drury knew what the hell he was doing.
They may squeak in.
That's a tough sell for me.
Well, I mean,
And
the
like
proof's in the pudding.
the proof's
as
in
they
the
say.
pudding, and you're right. But man,
Who would have thought? Who would have?
Well
Everyone
said.
had them wrote off, right? And now they're the hottest team in the league, and it's just unbelievable.
they don't
that
even
they-
have Adam Fox on their top 2D.
Yeah.
Let that sink in.
It's crazy.
That's how well they're playing.
Yeah.
And the depth that they have.
Yeah. And
That's
they're
incredible. Do you know what though? Too is
yeah.
you need
Yeah,
the
so is
tops,
everybody else
the
in the
original 6 teams. You need them competitive. You just do because
For
it
sure.
makes everything better.
100.
Especially the team out of Madison Square
That'd be
Garden.
fun. That'd be fun seeing Toronto and the Rangers in a conference final.
Oh,
That'd be a blast.
wow! Absolutely.
The league would
'Cause-
love that, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Jeff
Yeah,
brought-
TV ratings.
Jeff
yeah.
brought up that word earlier, parity.
Yeah.
And I think we're seeing it over a lot of leagues now.
Mm-hmm.
And can the league sustain 2 more teams?
Well, I don't know if it's about the league. It's about the money, and
Yeah.
and I think that might be the detriment of adding more teams. Is where does it end?
Yeah. But you add more teams, so you add more players, or you're watering down the product.
Well,
if
the
they-
talent pools though these days, I don't know. They're
Yeah.
like I know that the teams like Chicago and San Jose and the ones kind of closer to the bottom, they're hurting pretty bad right now. But that's not any different than if it was 10 years ago. And
Yep.
you're looking at, and I'm just saying, like with your team, when your first start was Morgan Riley in 2013.
Yep.
Then you got Nylander. Then you got Marner. Then you got Matthews. So every team kind of goes through that. I don't know if it's necessarily diluted talent. I just think it's the way of the ebbs and flows of how the league goes. I mean, I don't know.
And the talent comes into the league also goes through those ebbs and flows, right?
Yeah.
You have a deep draft. You have a not so deep draft. And
Well, then you get the 62nd pick overall in
Yeah.
Montreal, and I'll say it again.
Yep.
Like, it's incredible, you know, the amount of players that come out higher in the draft is the example of.
Yeah.
I think the league's going to be
Yeah.
okay
You-
if they go two more.
you go no further than looking at our Pavel Datsuk.
Yeah.
Like, look where he was
He
drafted
was
and
like
look
a
what he
sixth-
became.
I think he was the 6th round.
Well,
But keep in mind too that with salary caps,
Yeah.
you don't need
yeah.
that excessive talent pool. The NHL is full of pluggers.
Yep.
So to bring
And-
up some draft picks, I actually have a list. Patrick Waugh, number 51. Brett Hull only had 741 goals, 1,391 points. He went 117th overall to
Well,
Calgary.
he got drafted because his old man.
Yeah.
Really.
Luke Robitaille, Lucky Luke, 151st overall, had 1,394 points. The Moose, Mark Messier, number 48th, 79 draft, 887 points. Datsuk, 171. Zetterberg, 210. Pavel Dimitra had a career 700 points and drafted at a 93, 227th. Corey Perry, 28th. Claude Giroux, 22nd. Zach Hyman, 123.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those are just a few names that people
Yep.
are familiar with. Those are great stories, and those are the stories
Yeah.
I kind of love the most.
And another thing with some of those names, you got to look at that draft class too, right? There's some draft classes that were just outstanding, and they had players way back that were just that good, but everybody else in front of them, like,
yeah, I'd say the 210 Henrik Zetterberg was a steal.
They
And
had,
you
they-
left Jacob Middleton's name off that list, I noticed. This
There's
year's
a-
Norris Trophy
yeah,
winner.
there's a
210th and 96.
Yeah,
No, sorry, 2014.
there's a
I was gonna
page.
say he is a 96.
Yeah, there's a page on Facebook that every now and then they do repicking the draft
Mm-hmm.
of certain years, and it's interesting what they come out with, because it's true. You don't know what your product is, but now this is the product. Did they go wrong, right?
yeah.
Yeah, you can bet there's a lot of teams in all sports who would love to redo certain drafts.
I got a little trivia question.
Okay.
See if somebody can up
Love
to
it.
the answer.
Is it wrong?
Vancouver the other night.
One sec. Let him get the question out. All right,
Is it
Holly.
Ron Tugnut?
Vancouver the other night had two Elias Petterssons in their lineup, who was the last team to have two guys of the same name in their lineup that were not related.
The Charlestown Chiefs.
No.
Who owns the Chiefs? Tell that bullshit.
They weren't really
Yeah,
handsome.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
I have no idea.
The Vancouver Canucks. Greg Adams.
Oh,
They had
really?
two of them in the lineup at the same time, not
There's a
related.
reason why I don't follow them.
Right.
Yeah.
I just saw that pop
That's
up
kinda
this morning
fun.
and thought, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And they showed the one guy getting the Pettersson sandwich last night. He got caught between both of them at the same time. And
Pedersen sandwich.
Well, it's not like as if like they've got a last name like Smith.
Yeah.
Like, you know, those are two distinct Swedish names.
well, it's like Sebastian Aho. There's two of them in the league.
And was the other
Yeah.
Pedersen, was he from Utah or where was he
I
from?
don't know where he's from,
Oh,
but
okay.
I'm just
kidding.
it's just weird. There's two Sebastian Ahos in the league. Which one are you talking about? We're talking about the one that scores goals.
Yeah.
The Finnish one.
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Good
Well,
first
for a
segment,
wee break.
guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about some of our sponsors before we get a break.
Yep. I'll start it off with SBS Metals. Our great friends, Kathy McCann, Dennis Culleton. It was good to see you guys at the Irish game the other night. Metal fabrication customized with professional craftsmanship. Stratford's preferred custom, commercial, or residential metal fabricator. They had a really good project they did for Scotty McCann. They did his rail car
Oh, yeah.
that they showed on their social media channel on Facebook. So they invite you to have a look at their catalog on their social media channels, which gives lots of great examples of the work they do, and we are so thankful and fortunate to have them on board this season, this today especially, our 50th episode. Thanks so much for your support, guys.
Domino's Pizza, the official pizza of the Armchair Chirpers. We can't say that you can get a free large 3-item anymore because we're out of those coupons, but 2 locations, 406 Ontario and 536 Huron Street.
Absolutely. And our great friends at Joe's Diner, 2 locations in St. Mary's and Stratford. They are the official breakfast, lunch, dinner diner of the Armchair Chirpers, home of the world-famous Perth County breakfast, number 4. What's yours every Sunday with your mom? What do you order?
Perth County just had it yesterday.
What do you get? Over easy, scrambled?
Over easy with brown toast and bacon.
Ooh, sorry for the trick
Same.
question there, Razor. You had to think a minute.
Yes.
Over easy brown bacon.
As always, with all of our sponsors, we're so fortunate and thankful to have Joe's Diner on our podcast as a sponsor, and thank you so much for your support.
We going to keep going, or we?
You can do your Brighter Vision. if you'd
Yeah,
like.
sure. Brighter Vision Counseling, Psychology, and Wellness, providing compassionate and effective counseling services to individuals and families in need. They provide a safe and supportive environment where everyone can heal and grow. Brighter Vision Counseling, Psychology, and Wellness.
Yeah, thanks so much to those great people.
All right, we'll take a little bit of a break. We'll be right back, folks.
Wayward mind, lovesick blind. Why do I climb these heights for you? Twisted mule always gets my shit confused. What's a man have to prove? Do I have to walk the knife for you? Every mountain I've climbed, there's a valley low. For every highway I ride, there's a rocky road. She's got me beat, she's got me broken, right down to my soul. Drunk and young, I asked to walk you home, but an aloof response had me on my own without you. I stumble on, all alone, with DMVs. Where are you gone? On repeat in my dome, so blue. She's got me beat, she's got me broken, right down to my soul. She's got me beat, she's got me broken, right down to my soul. You pick me up, don't you know you got a hold on me? It brings me down in only ways that you can see. You keep me close, then you go ahead and run from me, and hit me up when you're lonesome and need company. Wayward mind, lost it blind. Why do I climb these heights for you? Every mountain I've climbed, there's a valley low. For every highway I ride, there's a rocky road. She's got me beat, she's got me broken, right down to my soul.
Oh, we're back.
So just coming back, guys, and what you were just listening to is our friends at Small Town Strip Club, a local band from Stratford, who have actually been on the show, and we had a great response from them. They're locally well-known and great guys. I can't share a whole lot, but what I do know is you need to, if you're not already, you need to be tuning into their social media channels. They're going to be announcing some huge news in reference to touring, and I'm not going to say a whole lot because Jimmy Flood was in getting his hair cut, the drummer, and he said I can share this with you, but like don't say anything. So that's like
So
a
here's
lot
what he
of
said.
yeah.
But
So
I'm gonna-
I have to.
My sources say.
I have to keep my promise, and Jimmy, thank you for the information. But great news for this band that just keeps on grinding and doing great things and bringing out new music. And you know, they're just humble guys that are local here, and man, we are a big fan of you guys. So we're looking forward to you guys launching the news and the dates and the cities. And let's just say it's not just local. It's out west. It's in and around GTA. It's It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah. And
So-
well deserved,
Yeah.
right? Like they have grinded, and
Yeah.
That's how you do it, right? I mean, so many times, I got a kid that's in music, and so many times you hear the term overnight success.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? That overnight success is the culmination of about 8 years of hard work.
Right.
Yeah,
Monster Truck, a great band.
absolutely.
They used to jam in a jam shack in Burlington. When my kid was helping out it was a punk band at the time. He was young. He was like 16 or 17. And down the row is this Monster Truck band. And little did we know that we would run into these guys, that all of a sudden Deep Purple's coming to town into Hamilton, and their backup band canceled on them. So they went and grabbed these guys.
Really?
And so
Wow.
we show up in row 2 to see Deep Purple, and there's Monster Truck, and I'd never heard of them.
They
But
killed it.
My kid, and they just come out and ripped it up.
Oh,
And,
wow.
they got on the radio, and then I remember specifically hearing the station down in St. Catharines there,
97.7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
97.7?
Hits FM.
Hits FM, that's the one.
Yep.
And they're going, ooh, these guys are like an overnight success. And I'm going, no, man, you have no clue, man. These guys, in this
Yeah.
racket, you got to put years and years of work in,
Yes.
and that's what these guys have been doing. And one guy who used to play with my kid is their guitarist, Brady Lewis, who's just an
Yeah.
animal on guitar.
Yeah.
I love, the only thing I didn't like about their last show when they opened up for
At the RB.
Big Wreck
Yeah.
was that he usually goes for a rip. He goes cordless, and he usually goes for a rip
Through the
around
audience?
Oh yeah.
Oh, nice.
While he's doing solos but the stage was fenced in, so they kind of kept him.
Okay.
They kind of kept him boxed in.
Kept
and
him like a
we
cat in
love.
a
I love
cage.
Brady Lewis. Shout out to Brady Lewis, one of my favorite.
Well,
people.
all you guys
He's a
know
great
Jimmy
Leaf fan,
and,
too.
and John.
Well, I still like him.
It's just important that we let you guys know that keep tuned into these guys. It's going to be a big 2025 for them. Can't wait for everyone listening to hear the information, what they're going to share. So keep on keeping on, fellas. Big
Love
fans.
it. Love it.
Let's finish off just I'll do the Urban Barber, full service barber shop, 3 barbers by appointment only. Please go online to our social media channels on Facebook or Instagram or Google, and it'll give you a book now button that'll allow you to book, see our schedule and book to your soonest convenience. We look forward to seeing you soon, and thank you so much for your business, Stratford and surrounding area.
Bentley's Bar, Inn, and Restaurant, the official bar and restaurant of the Armchair Chirpers. 20 draft beers on tap, daily food specials, fabulous place to spend the night in their lofts or executive suite, locally owned and operated by the Bentley family.
Great spot. And last but certainly not least, Janet Lange, from the Home and Company office, a real estate broker here locally and surrounding area, the official realtor of the Armchair Chirpers. She has coined the phrase "putting the real in real estate," and she would look forward to having any conversation you may have with commercial or residential real estate in the area. Janet Lange, real estate /broker.
All right.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, let's get to some Junior B action. The Warriors with a 6 points out of 6 points week, which was great. It's their first of 2. They have another 3-game week coming up. It's kind of weird because of where Family Day, falls in that. But so we traveled to St. Thomas, or St. Thomas came to Stratford on a Wednesday night, which is a rare home game on a Wednesday night.
Right.
Like Jeff said, the crowd probably wasn't as big as it said, but you count all your season ticket holders and you move on. Stratford performed well, and it's
Where's St. Thomas in the standings?
down and out.
10th.
Okay,
10th.
so with that being said, it's
Yeah.
it's a win you need to take, and it's got to be it's got to be sound.
Yeah,
right?
we've come up with a new saying, and it's look after your own house first. Doesn't matter what
Yeah.
everybody else is
Is
doing.
that
Sure.
Glendon, your house, or the
No,
Colleton?
the
or
Warriors. Look after,
Okay.
get your 2 points first. Look after your own house. Get your 2 points first. Doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. Everybody's like, there's nothing we can do. We don't play St. Mary's anymore. So nothing we can do there. Just let them keep winning. Let them walk away.
Can you
can't stop
comment
them.
who made that coined that phrase?
Which
Take care of your own house.
no,
Doesn't matter. Okay.
doesn't matter.
Welcome to my house, baby.
But it's
Flow rider.
yeah, it's the attitude they're having, and it's a good attitude. Get your
It's
2 wins.
necessary.
Get your
I
2
like
wins.
it.
Get your 2 points
Yeah.
first.
I
It
like
doesn't
it.
matter what happens below you or above you. Get your 2 points.
This,
Just
this was a big week for them because, and I was talking to a couple of the parents after
Yep.
the St. Mary's game, and I said to them, they were kind of bummed about losing to St. Mary's. I said, well, in fairness, this is a team you're probably supposed to lose
Yep.
to at this point.
Yep.
You don't worry about not beating St. Mary's in January. You focus on what you need to do to get a chance to play St. Mary's in March or maybe April. And so I said to them, I said, you've got 3 games coming up this week against 10th place, and 9th place.
Yep.
You need to get 6
6
points
points.
this
Yep.
week. And
Right.
kudos to them. They not only went
Yeah.
out, Furlong goes up and throws up a donut
Wednesday night.
on Wednesday night.
Yep.
Kid's
And-
outstanding.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, he's. I'll get to some numbers
Yep.
in a minute, but he's number 2 in the league in goals against, and then go up there and get it done on a, was it 3-1?
3-1, yeah.
3-1, and then a similar score. Was it not the same score? Was it 3-1 as well?
Saturday or
Sunday in Waterloo.
Sunday in
4-1.
Waterloo was 4-1.
4-1.
Yeah.
So not only did they get the 6 points, win 3 games,
Yeah.
they gave up 2 goals while they were doing it.
And-
beat the bottom feeders. There
Yep.
aren't enough bottom feeders in the division
No.
to play around with those points.
and-
So full marks to Stratford. Well done.
And what it did, it got Jonas Schmidt and Hunter Nagy going.
It got Schmidt going, and congratulations to Jonas
Yep.
Schmidt for being the
Big
performer of the week
Yep.
I'll
in the
tell
Western
you,
Conference.
when I heard about him being signed, I just thought, what a great pickup. Like, he's familiar with the team. He's familiar with the coach, can sleep in his own bed. And I know I've talked about it on previous podcasts, but watching him again in St. Mary's when we went over there last Saturday night, like, even though Stratford lost, I loved how he played.
His shifts were start to finish.
Right, he was the most dangerous Stratford player out there,
Yeah.
and he's so calm out there, and he just picks his opportunities. And as soon as Louis comes back, like, I love what they've got going.
And the thing about it is too that I noticed that night, there was quite a few players that played a great game in St. Mary's, and
Absolutely,
one thing I'll say about Jonas Schmidt is, you've got this rookie roster. It's fairly heavy, and,
Yep.
and we all know that. But the thing that I like is when you got guys like Lou, when you got guys like Schmidt, when you got guys like Schooley and Nagy. When you lead by example, you can bring these rookies along and just improve their play. And when you lead like they do, and what we've seen that they can do, it's contagious,
absolutely.
right? So, they're going to be competitive, and I just, full kudos. And I have to go back because when Clarkey was on here a few weeks ago, I think he might have knew something was going on with Schmitty because he goes, I can't tell you, but we've got some stokes in the fire. And I know when he says that, he's got his poker face, and I'm going, you
can't say anything,
Right?
can
He
you?
didn't
Yeah,
even
and
tell the church.
It was that Wednesday
It
night
was a
game.
scoop, Clarkey.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
It was. It
No
was
one's listening.
It was that Wednesday night game. Joe Curtin scored his first GOJHL goal.
Yeah, congrats.
And threw the monkey off his back right at the bench, and Jonas Schmidt scores a goal, and he throws the monkey off his back too, right?
nice.
Nagy's picking up some, as the boys call them, apples.
Yeah.
So, and it's good. But games like that, like I had Jonas's dad on the broadcast on the Friday night before, and I was saying to him, I said, like, what's it like now being, he's back home playing? He says it's great. He says, I can't do anything about what's happening on the ice. He says, but he'll be okay. He knows what he has to do, and I don't have to say anything to him.
You know what I like though too, Les, and maybe you can dig a little bit further into this. when you go through the ebbs and flows of the season that is what these players are going through, somebody's come up and coined the phrase, let's take care of our own house.
Yep.
You've got to find ways to stimulate these young players throughout the course of a season, because it is possible that things do get stagnant. Clarkie's talked about a few different, areas throughout the season where, maybe it's before Christmas, or maybe it's when you come back after a break, whatever that means. With these young players, with these veterans, how you're making a pattern for them to continue to succeed, show up against the 10th place teams. It's all important. It's all relevant. So it's good to hear, and maybe you can add a little bit to, you being a part of all the season so far. You're probably seeing a few pivots that they make. They've had to, send off a couple players that didn't quite fit the puzzle. It's junior hockey. That's what happens. That's what you have to do. So can you take us through a little bit maybe of what you're seeing? Or
I've just noticed with these kids, when they lose, it's not, oh, great, we lost this game, blah, blah, blah. It's like, we'll get them next time. We'll worry about the next game. When they win, they make sure they know it. And when a guy has a good night, they make sure he knows he had a good night. Good. The other, like Hunter Nagy was the first star of the game the other night and the player of the game, and I guess the kid didn't show up for the photo with the Pinnacle Fieldhouse player of the game, so Doogie goes out there. He didn't play that night. On Wednesday night, he goes out there with a stick and he's holding it up to Nagy like he's my hero, right? And it's guys, they just push each other. And I was talking to Mike Nechtel, the assistant coach there, Friday night in St. Thomas, which, for Stratford teams, it's weird being on the road on a Friday night.
Yeah. You're
so used to the confines of the William Allman Arena and that. So on a night. And he was like, that was a horrible warm-up. And even some of the guys said that after the game. They said, we warmed up horribly.
Really?
But they came out and they got it, right?
Yeah, they take a W, 3-1. And
it's important to have that self-awareness as a team.
Yes.
Just to go back to that St. Mary's game, in that third period, Brian and I talked about it on the broadcast. Carter McDougall made a save in that third period that I have said is his best save of the year. When he come across,
the exact one.
Might be the best one I've seen this year in that league.
Yeah,
You
he come
saw
back
that.
across.
Yeah.
There's been some great 10-bell saves in this league, but Carter McDougall made that 10-bell save, and I was like, wow.
My hamstring still hurts from watching it.
Yeah.
And he's
It's
just
true.
a calm, steady presence in the thing. Like when he lets in a bad goal, he doesn't want you coming near him.
I love it.
He's like, no,
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
good.
and I
He
think
doesn't need any pats on the pads. He knows sometimes he maybe should have had it, and sometimes it wasn't his fault.
Yep.
I love it how he has a short memory. He just forgets it. Let's go. Drop the puck. Let's go.
And another thing, you hate to see a guy like Cole Lewis out of the lineup. And at the Wednesday night game, he was pacing back and forth beside us because he just wanted to be on the ice so much.
Right.
And I've had him on the broadcast a couple times since he's been hurt because he just wants to keep coming back. He just wants to be part of everything. And we keep bugging the general that he's after his
He's
job.
after the general's job. I think.
Well,
Yeah.
Friday night in St. Thomas, him and Schooley, who's also hurt, have decided they want my job, and both of them are going to do the play-by-play.
you never
And I
know.
said, more than welcome to it, boys, but I'd rather see you playing on the ice.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, you can go to LaSalle on a Wednesday. I'll stay home.
yeah, that's about it. You can take the LaSalle's next year, Louis, if
no
you're not
doubt.
playing. So yeah, and then yesterday in Waterloo, which was nice because it was their 90th anniversary. So Waterloo wore their vintage whites, and Stratford brought the retro
I saw
colored
that.
jerseys
Yeah.
onto the ice. And
Yeah.
I had somebody say, well, isn't that, I said, it is fitting. So 90 years old as being named the Siskins for all 90 years is pretty good.
That is
Yeah.
pretty good.
Like Stratford, the first meeting between Stratford and them was about 1940 or late 30s.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
1940, Waterloo wins their first Southern Cup. Stratford kissed Canadians when they're
So for those who don't
42.
know, KIST was a pop.
Bought in kind of right be-
KIST.
Yep.
Yes.
My dad actually used to drive
right
for
behind
them
the
up to Clifford.
right behind the Allman Arena.
Yeah. So
one time.
Yeah.
you
feel
know,
like they
and
were
I
on
think
Erie
that's
Street
why.
at one point, too.
God, I love
Yeah.
this game. Like
Yeah.
stories like that. Unless you were telling me a little bit before the show about what you just mentioned, and it's just so special. Like, you know, to have that camaraderie, to have that, you know, when you posted less about over 350 matches between
Yep.
the two teams. That is so great.
Yep, and then-
It's so important. It's so special, and it just continues.
Yeah, and I was telling Jeff this. They've met 14 times in the league finals, and they're 7-7. So
And I
Yeah.
feel like there was
Yeah.
about 8 of those consecutively.
yeah, there is a big history and a rivalry. And Anthony Stewart said that to me. He goes, "I'm starting to understand this Stratford rivalry." And then he was asking about the Almond because he's never been there, and he said, "Have they done much to it?" And I said, "No, it's still the old wooden seats." He goes, "Really, the old wooden seats?" I said, "Yeah." And I said to him, "Look it, you guys are coming up in a couple of weeks. You should come up and check it out."
Yeah.
Because he's never been in the building.
So did you mention, and sorry if I missed it, did
Yeah.
you mention Anthony Stewart's role?
He is the president of the Siskins.
Right.
So
So just
he's
for
second
people that
second
know.
year, and he said he's really liking it. He said this year he came out for a practice, and he was going to run practice. He said he was tired after about 15 minutes. He said these kids
On
know
the
what they're
Olympic
doing.
ice.
Yeah, these kids know what they're doing.
Yeah.
So we we have a really busy chat tonight. It's freaking hilarious. Shanker, Chess, happy 50th, fellas, on your 50th episode. Thanks so much, guys.
Yeah,
You're
thank
both
you.
friends of the show. John Fountain has a question from Minnesota. Sorry, did Les say a 10-bell save or a Tim Bell save? Those who know, know.
Yeah, those who know, know. Yeah.
You know, you know.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, Founts will call that a
Yeah.
10-bell save.
The old international lister, Johnny Founts down
He
in
would have got
Minnesota.
the drums from the tin bell on that one.
Hide your smokes.
Yeah.
I maybe shouldn't, but we walked back with friends of ours who lived on Portia Boulevard. So we used to walk down in the fall when it was warm enough. We used to walk to the games. He was about 50 feet up behind us, and we walked, and we got to my buddy's house, and he comes up. He goes, "Sorry, sir," to my buddy's dad. He goes, "Yeah, what's up?" He goes, "Can I get a cigarette off you?" Followed us all the way, Portia, to the main arena, which is, 15, 20-minute walk.
Well, I got
Unbelievable.
to tell one
Rest his
story.
soul.
Yeah,
He has passed.
great guy. He has passed. I really enjoyed him.
Yep.
Like he was a great addition to the tribe and everything that was going on in Stratford at that time. I remember being at the Almond the one time though, and he said to me, he already had a cigarette because I don't smoke, and he said to me, "Razor, when I light this cigarette, can you tell me to light it like Guy Lafleur?" And I just broke out laughing. And he's dead serious. And I'm like, all right.
When I used to come watch you guys play ball hockey,
Yeah.
I used to open the door for the team, and he'd come on. He wasn't a ref, but he'd come on in between warm-ups and stuff. He'd go, "Hey, kid, you want to see me do a line call like Scampanello on a Saturday night?" And I'm going, "All right." And he'd call it right down the line, and then Hiller Stadium with him is a whole other
I was just
story.
going to say, actually, he wasn't just at the rink.
No,
he was at the ballpark
he was at the
too,
ballpark,
and he'd go out there and he would run those bases in the 7th inning.
Yeah. I remember that.
He'd hit the ball and off he'd go. And oh my God! But he was
Yeah,
what a
He was
personality.
legendary.
Yeah.
And then he went over to London.
He moved to London. I
Yeah.
think he had to for a couple reasons, but
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you call a spade a spade. He had some demons, but at the end of the day, he was a fixture around sporting
Sports, yep.
venues
100%.
in Stratford
Yeah.
for at least a decade.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like you said, God rest his soul.
yeah.
I can't believe he brought out Tim Bell.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we
Founts
did.
brings that one
Johnny
up.
Founts
Founts.
did from Minnesota.
I know,
The
right?
old satellite.
I tell you what.
So,
I wanted to give a thought on the team before we moved on. I feel like the guy that really like you mentioned, you thought Schmidt was one of their best players in St. Mary's on Saturday. I thought it was Caden Long. And I
Yes.
think that the
Once he
addition
hits-
of Caden Long was absolutely huge at the time, but it's even more huge now that your number one center iceman is out long term.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of
He's
keeping
been-
in mind they got these 3 wins without Lewis.
Yep.
And Caden Long has slid into that number one center ice role. I thought he was their best player on Saturday night in St. Mary's.
So-
he killed penalties. He won faceoffs. He played well defensively.
Yeah, he did.
You
Yeah,
know what
he
I
had a
mean?
good-
It's just
he
they
had a
had
good
tough
game.
time scoring, and that's the nature of the beast in St. Mary's, where the other team has trouble scoring. But all of the rest of the aspects of the hockey game, Caden Long did really, really well, and
Agreed.
what an absolute huge pickup for Stratford.
once he finds the back of the net, look out, because the kid can score. It's just a matter of getting settled. Like, it took Schmidt how long to get settled, and he's finally comfortable. Like, Schmidt, after the game, he scored a goal, the second goal. Sunday, the breakaway goal on Chartrand, and he put that one between his legs, and he was,
Oh, really?
you know, after he scored that second goal, he was the best player on the ice for about 10 minutes. He was just everywhere.
Yeah,
Well,
that was at the
you
end
know,
of the
and
first.
He's a smart.
You're gonna find once the playoffs really start and everything gets amped up, you're gonna see Jonas Schmidt.
Yep.
You're gonna see, Long.
Yep.
You're
Yes.
gonna see these players that they've acquired and the ones that have been along all year long and doing a great job. But those players are going to be necessary when these rookies, and I say that with all due respect, when you're going into your first playoff series at the Almond and it's blowing and
Yep.
you're ready to go, and they might see a message or two from past players that Clarkey and Parsi have done in the past, and letting them really take it in, but keep the focus. Like, it's such a line.
It's important this year so much because there's no Brantford, there's no Caledon. You know what I mean?
It's not going to be
whoever Stratford gets is going to be a tough team.
Oh,
they
yeah.
could end
Now-
up with a LaSalle. They could end up with a, who knows? Like, literally,
Yeah.
any one of 6 teams, and they're all going to be good. So the one thing that helped Stratford last year reach the conference finals was the ability to have that. I mean, make no mistake, Brantford was
took them,
hard to
yes,
score
yeah.
on, but it wasn't Brantford that kept him in the game. It was the goalie that kept him in the game.
Who was their goalie
Which
again?
was a great, I can't remember the kid's name. You
He
know
went
better than I
to the juniors this year.
Oh, Leonard
Leonard.
Nice.
So
Leonard Nice.
they were able to dominate the play and then run into the frustration,
Yep.
and they grew from that, which was great for them. But it'll be a much taller task because they won't have near as much room.
Yeah.
It's not.
So-
it's not
this
the
season.
yeah.
There's
100%.
so much parity in the Western Conference this year.
Well, like I said,
that-
it's all about the biggest difference for the Midwest teams is their first round
Yeah.
opponent.
I'm not talking-
especially if St. Mary's is coming first, because really, if there is one, and weak sister's too strong of a title, but I feel completely, no matter who I'm cheering for, I feel completely comfortable playing the Siskins in the first round
Yeah.
of the playoffs.
Yeah.
They're a one-line team. Their goalie can blow hot and cold. They run around the ice and worry more about hits than they do about the game. That's the team that I would want in the first round. Now, you watch, St. Mary's will get them and they'll take them 7 just to make me look like an idiot. But if I'm going in, I wouldn't. If I was associated with a team, I obviously wouldn't say this out loud. But after that, I mean, LaSalle and Chatham and Listowel and London and and all
See,
these-
And the thing about it is, though, too, and really quickly,
Yep.
sorry to interrupt, it could come down to the last weekend.
No,
Like,
it's-
with
It
the last 2
probably
games,
will.
you
could
look
be-
at Stratford's last weekend. and
You could be playing Listowel on Friday,
We-
and by Sunday you're playing, whoever,
So-
like Elmira or whoever.
me personally, I want to see Stratford 2 or 3. Because 2 or 3 does a couple things for you.
yes, that's very important.
It doesn't.
It
allow
keeps
you
you
to-
away from
yeah.
St. Mary's for as long as possible.
Yes.
Yeah,
And it also gives you a little better chance of missing London and Chatham, which, they're so close in the Western Conference. And so our final 2 games of the year are Listowel and Elmira in Elmira.
and I just named those
forgot
2.
about Elmira,
Had
too.
no idea.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Chatham is the last Friday night.
business.
Chatham is the last Friday night home game of the year. So it could come
That's a
down to
big
that
game.
last
So-
week for where you're going to finish.
And we keep bringing up this team, and I think we're all in agreement, and I think that's just the way it is. But like Chatham,
They're on a heater.
they've been on a heater
Yeah.
for
They're not on
months.
these.
Seven-
They are good.
Yeah.
They
They're
are
not-
just who they are.
They're just
They're the second hottest team. They're 7-1-1-1 in their last 10,
And that's no
only
mistake.
Only second to St. Mary's, who's 10-0. Then you've got
In their last
List-
10, St. Mary's is 10-0.
10-0.
Yeah, they're
Wow.
Yeah, Listowel's.
Put that in perspective. In a 38-game schedule thus far, the St. Mary's Lincolns have 2
10-game
10-game
yep.
winning streaks.
That's
It's
oh, they
crazy.
started off the season like
they
that.
started
too.
off
Yes.
with
14.
or 14.
14.
Oh my gosh.
Listowel's 7-2-1 in their last 10, and then you've got Stratford at 6-3-1, and London at 6-4. Like, it's tight.
Yeah.
After St. Mary's, then you've got 3 points separating Stratford, Chatham, London, and Listowel between second
Yeah,
and fifth.
there's a bit of a
Like, it's
game.
tight.
Like, I think Stratford's played the most games.
They're 2 games.
Yeah, Stratford's got
2 games
Two-
up.
Yeah.
like Listowel was way up there in games, and now they got 3 games in hand.
But
Yeah.
can we just talk about St. Mary's 10-0 again
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
year? Like,
Yeah,
Well,
holy
they're
mackerel.
the bar.
Here's
They're
what
the
they
bar.
ran into. I say we, the fans of the
Yeah, that's
team,
fair.
and I've never
Yeah.
made any apologies about the fact that I'm a fan of the Lincolns.
I'm a fan.
They went on a stretch that just finished where they had to play Listowel on Friday, Stratford on Saturday, in London on Wednesday, and the other hottest team that nobody's talking about on Friday night, Sarnia.
Yeah.
And the suggestion was if they could beat all three of those teams, being Listowel, Stratford, London, that would open up a nice little gap because they actually got a taxi squad. When at the start of the year, they only had 2 extra players. Now they've got 3. And I was talking to Coach Bradley last Saturday
Yep,
before the
before the
Stratford
game,
game, and he told me, he said, you got to come on Tuesday night and watch us practice because these guys want in the lineup. Every single player they have
That's awesome.
could be in the lineup on any given night. Vandenbrink is a 50-goal scorer in the go. He's sitting.
Really?
Okay.
What?
McPherson is probably the fastest skater on the team. He's sitting. Why? Because they have that much depth. And so they not only went into this, and the 5th game was Kamoka, which is a team that you think, and you breathe at the end of the 5. So it's a 5-game stretch, 5 games, 8 days, Listowel, Stratford, London, Sarnia, Kamoka. They won all 5 and gave up 7 goals,
Yep.
Crazy.
including
Crazy.
down 2-1 to Listowel after a very dreadful first period. So since they were down 2-1 to Listowel, they've actually outscored those opponents. I think it was 7-2.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. I
Yep.
mean, the way they came back in Listowel, they were down 2-1 going into the 3rd, and they tied it up, and it went to overtime. And then it was Moore who scored the goal on the breakaway. After the second intermission, they outshot Listowel 23-5. Outscored them 2-0. And I saw the temper tantrum, and I don't mind talking about this guy. This
Way you
Listowel
go,
guy.
Holly.
Wiley
Let her
Burkett.
rip.
Wiley Burkett. Listen, most of these guys are teenagers. This guy's 20. All right, he's a problem
Yeah.
because he's the kind of guy that throws around. He's a big kid. Let me describe this guy. He's a big kid. He's 6'4". He's over 200 pounds. Great skater. What a set of hands. Great shot. Scored earlier in the game, but runs around with his elbows higher than Gordie Howe.
Right.
And then gets in guys' faces, and then he's got a nickname in St. Mary's. Should I say it?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. His nickname in St. Mary's is Turtle. Because he challenged a St.
Or
Mary's
he's
player
slow?
to fight because he sticks his head inside his
Oh, dear.
shoulders when
That's
somebody
even
starts
worse.
throwing him.
Okay.
So he literally went in, and it was Cornfield, I believe, who is about 6 inches shorter and 40 pounds lighter. He threw the high elbow. Cornfield wants to fight him, and he literally dropped down to his knees with his hands over his head. And then at the end of that overtime game, if you know St. Mary's at all, when you leave the view at the rink and down the hallway is where all the visitors' dressing rooms
Right.
are. I'm telling you, that hockey stick of his was in 4 separate pieces, and he dropped no less than a dozen F-bombs that came resonating up into the lobby.
Wow.
And, I have so much respect for Jesse Cole, their coach. But
Yeah.
they need to reel this kid in. They
Yeah,
really
yeah,
do.
yeah.
I mean, he's if you're going to play like
It's
that, I
not-
got no issue if you want to
It's
play
not
like
a good
that.
look.
It's
No,
not.
And Jesse Cole is
He's
a
a
phenomenal
classy guy.
coach.
He's one of the best
Yes.
coaches at any level.
Yeah.
He's a great
I'm
hockey
really
coach. He's
surprised.
just
That's
a-
surprising to hear.
I know, and it's really
too bad.
disappointing. I don't want to, like I said, most of these guys are teenagers, and you don't want to go too crazy on them, so I'm not.
Right.
But I'm just saying that I have so much respect for the Listowel organization, Randy Petrie and Jesse Cole, that a kid like that it's bad optics having
Sure.
a kid like that seemingly out of control.
I
That's
talked
all
to you're talking about depth, and just to get back to Stratford a little bit. Right now, they're in a little bit of a hurt with the depth. So much so, Hayden Frayne went up and played forward on Wednesday night. He got hurt in the game and had to leave.
Jeez.
He came back Friday and played defense. Aaron Green went up, or Sunday. Aaron Green went up and played forward. He got hurt and had to leave the game
Why
Sunday.
no APs less? That's just the way they're running.
It's just
it.
the way it is right now. I
Yeah.
think something's going to happen this week. We got 2 games against Sarnia, Thursday and Friday. 3 kids at the McPherson tournament.
Yeah, and
a
I'm not
couple kids hurt.
asking
Yeah.
criticizing the management or the decisions. I'm just wondering, like, I thought that's what APs were for, but maybe there's something else going on.
Becca McLeod played in St. Mary's.
Yeah.
As an EP, and he
did okay.
He did okay. I was like, I said to Beckham, he gets on the bus, and I said, nothing like going to the frying pan right away. And he goes, I know, eh? They talked about giving him the hot lap, but he said no. He didn't want it. He didn't want it, so he
That's funny.
politely declined.
Congratulations,
to go
though, Becca
No, he
McLeod.
played okay. He really
He's a
did.
great
Yeah,
kid.
because I mentioned we
Nice
were
kid.
talking about him on the broadcast, and
And
I
I've-
said,
I've
yeah,
known-
if you know that name, he is the brother of
the
Malcolm,
fourth. He's
the
the fourth
son of
McLeod.
Matt,
Yeah.
and the nephew of Mike.
Yeah.
You know, the
And,
fourth McLeod.
yeah.
So
I met Becca McLeod as a 10-year-old ball player up in Listowel, and I coached him. I coached him for 2 years at least, and I've had a nice relationship with Beckham as he's grown up. It's been fun to watch him grow up, and you know, he's playing for the Tavistock Braves.
Yep.
I get the two
Yeah.
mixed up. So yeah, he's a great kid. Comes from a good family, and I'm just glad to see him have some
He's
success.
sporting a little duster too.
Oh, that always helps.
I got to know him over the years. He's a student at the rinks, moving the nets, and great kid.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
working with
Well,
backs.
didn't
They
fall
always
far
are.
from the tree, right?
Yeah,
Like,
they always are.
Yeah.
Nothing. All the McLeods have been great. Yeah. So that's their week coming up. It's again, take care of your own house, get the 4 points.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is
And
it
kudos
gonna
to the
be easy?
goaltending
No.
as well.
Yeah.
I just did a little bit of a
Yep.
deep dive into the Go stats. Interesting fact, fun fact, I guess, is the top 6 goaltenders and goals against in the Go are represented by 3 teams.
That's mind blowing.
St. Mary's, no surprise. Armelin and Booth House Go,
Yep.
1 and 3. Chase Furlong, number 2 in the league. And number 6 is McDougall.
Yep.
And 4 and 5 are the 2 Fort Erie goalies. So the top 6
Crazy.
that goals against, and not surprisingly, you look at the standings and the 3 teams with, I think there's only 3 teams left that have given up less than 100 goals. Not surprisingly, St. Mary's, Stratford, Fort Erie.
But surprisingly, the number in St. Mary's blows my mind.
Yeah.
You told me earlier.
67 goals in
Yeah.
64 goals.
64 goals
In 37
games.
That is
That's
Nico
crazy.
Armelin is not just on a heater for the season.
yeah.
166 and 944 save
Yeah,
percentage.
that's huge.
lights
Saving 95 out of 100
Three
shots.
quarters of the way
Yeah.
through the season.
Like, yeah,
That's
I mean,
unbelievable.
yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously the record is gaudy. He's something like 15 and 3 or something like that. And
That's incredible.
that's Pity Poor Housego, who is 16 and 4, has the 3rd best goals against, has the 3rd best save percentage in the league, and he's not even number 1 on his team.
Now, are they riding Armelin
They
right
alternate.
now?
No,
Okay. So
they have
still are.
alternated.
They go back and forth.
They started off with Booth Housego early.
Okay.
So he's got, I think, 2 more games played than Armelin. But they have literally alternated every game
1A,
moving
1B.
forward. And the one thing that I didn't ask Coach Bradley when I talked to him was, are you going to keep this up? Because it would be a waste of my time asking him, because number 1, he won't commit to that.
Right.
Number 2, he might say, oh, yeah, we're going to go with Armelin.
And
And
then-
then he'll get hurt, and then Housego will have to come in and go, yeah, well, I'm the number 2 guy. You know what I mean? So he's a smart guy, Bradley. He's not going to commit either way. So I didn't
Right.
waste his time
Great
asking
coach.
that.
Great coach.
So at the end of the day, the thing is, I like to make fun of him a little bit, because when you look at him, like, he's a little dude.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really look, to me, he doesn't look like a hockey coach. I call
Well,
him
it's
the
like the
mad
dude off the
scientist.
Dolphins.
I call him the mad scientist because he looks like more like a polymorph chemist with that big, thick, cheesy
The
duster that he's
intimidation,
got
man.
there. But like I said, you know, I'm not the smallest guy in the world. I'm not huge, but I'm not. But he's a good 4 or 5 inches
Right.
shorter. But just to see the way that his teams play for him, the way that I've never in my life seen a team forecheck like that.
Yeah.
Team forecheck.
Ollie,
Never in my life.
and
Not at that level.
It's the whole journey.
It's like
with,
Hitchcock himself is coaching his team.
with the Lincolns, the journey, and you guys weren't here last week, obviously, but you know, Razor and I talked about just the atmosphere in St. Mary's and the buzz and the vibe, and you guys were there, but not on the podcast. And you know, we had a blast, Razor, eh?
Oh,
Like,
it was
just
great.
so good.
Yeah.
And It's such that little engine that could, Holly, that you brought up a few times in past episodes, and I just think there's nothing more true than those words.
Those little
And,
town, I just love
you
the
know,
small
and
town
you've got
little
these,
guy
you've got these
feel.
guys from the GTA coming down, and St. Mary's, for crying out loud. Like, it's
The
fantastic.
Milton Magician.
Milton
Yeah,
Magicians,
chess.
Yes.
Yeah.
Spagnuolo
And
And
you
Lee,
know,
yeah.
I watch, and we were up having a beer
6 in the league in scoring,
after the
so.
game, and there's this guy that comes up in a pink 3-piece suit. I go, that's Spagnola, isn't it? And you could just tell
he's
because
just so confident.
Then it wasn't
Yeah.
about me making fun of him in the suit. It wasn't that. That's GTA flavor. Like, that's him
yeah.
bringing that into a small town, and it was nothing but a compliment.
Well, and Chester said that they are so well respected, those 2
100%.
guys
Yeah.
on
Well,
the team.
yeah.
Like your captain should be, right?
Yep.
But I just loved how they carried themselves. They just have all cylinders running, and it's going to be interesting. Like McDougall and Furlong are going to have to play lights out for them to upset. But that's why you play the game.
Oh, yeah. They're teenagers. In the end, they're
Right.
teenagers. And
Yep.
so, you know, we've all coached and been around the
Yep.
sports of all kinds long enough to know that every once in a while your teenagers show up and you just go, oh,
Yeah.
So
we're done.
And
Saturday-
that's fine.
Saturday in St. Mary's, we were able to have Spencer Seymour, the voice of the
Yeah.
Lincolns, on the show.
Wearing a suit.
Yeah, wearing a suit.
Oh, yeah.
Sunday, I had Dylan Baker, the voice of pretty much everybody, on the show. This kid,
519.
this
Yeah.
kid is
He's-
19 years
you're
old.
probably going to see him on CBC one day. I would
19 years old,
I
and
hope
he
so.
does everything. He
Wow.
he said he was listing off what he did last week, and I said, I'm tired just listening to you. And the thing we all talked about, and Brian said this, Jeff said it earlier in the thing, there's so much parity in the Western Conference right now
Yeah.
that they've never seen it like this. And I asked him, I said, is this what the Go wanted? He said they wanted, he said, this is what everybody wanted.
Sure.
All the elite players, though, let's be honest with the situation. The elite players aren't there anymore.
No.
Right? So, and
It's-
that's okay.
yeah,
That's
but
okay.
parity's done
there's
great for this.
Lots of amazing players in the league.
Like, I think the Go's probably kicking themselves going, why didn't we do this sooner?
Oh,
Well, ask Jason Clark
Right.
about that.
Great.
yeah.
Because it's-
it's not as though it wasn't suggested.
And it's
Realignment, you know.
it's just not like the Stratford St. Mary's is great, but it's everything
But
else.
you just
100%.
didn't- It wasn't, like I said, and it just, I think it was coincident, or maybe what you might call
Or the
an
perfect storm.
What you might call an unintended benefit.
Yep.
The fact that the best teams in the Midwest were all geographically the ones that were going west.
Yeah.
Correct.
Listowel, Stratford, Waterloo, Elmira.
100%.
You know, not all the best teams. Obviously, Ayr is a really, really good hockey club. Cambridge has a good hockey club.
Fort Erie has a good hockey club.
But they weren't
St.
in the
Catharines, yeah,
Midwest.
yeah.
They weren't in
Yep.
the Midwest. This
No.
is my point.
Yep.
So when because really all that happened really was you chopped up the
Yeah.
Midwest, and you sent most of the good teams over here, and 2 of the good teams, and the rest, and even Brantford. I mean, you got to respect Brantford. That Zabo kid that
Yep.
they have.
Oh, yeah.
Top 10 in scoring, leading the Go in shorthanded goals on a team that doesn't score is really.
Can we say congratulations to Zach Hyman for purchasing
the Brantford
Yeah.
Bulldogs. Yep.
there you go.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and he's going to keep them there long term. Could be a 40-year agreement.
Well,
the way
let's
it's
hope they
worded.
start drawing because they haven't.
Yeah.
Really
100%.
drawn.
If we get the
Squad.
perfect storm in the Western Conference, you could have 3 teams from Perth County, 1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
So that tells you how alive and well we saw it last year in the playoffs. How
Right.
alive and well hockey is in Perth County right now.
Yes.
Well, let's face it. 2 teams from Perth County were playing for the
The
Southern
Southern
Cup
Cup, yep.
last year.
Right.
So it's a great time to be a junior hockey fan. No matter what town you're in this league, to be honest with you, it's so much fun to watch.
Brian has a great saying. When you look at the standings, Brian,
Well, as my old pappy used to say about the Canadian weather, you know, if you don't like the weather, just wait an hour. And that's what the standings are like.
Right?
the general's been using that with Brian's standing. I was like, yep, it's great. Now I'm gonna have to tell general. Now you got to start wording it. My pappy used to.
I have to be honest though, Les, when you in general are listening to Holly, like, do you guys almost kind of get like listening to a storyteller? Like, it's just phenomenal.
I love having Brian on on the games
Yeah.
with us.
How could you not?
Well, I
It's
saw
a great
that it's
pairing.
going to be you in general.
Yeah,
for a
Brian and the
game.
general Friday night.
And I'm here to tell you, you watch out Friday, Stratford. You better watch out for these 2 games. That Sarnia team
You're
is
not there.
super quick.
Not Friday night. No, we're on the grandkids trip.
Are you calling the game?
I am doing my. I'm popping my cherry.
He's going to
so
do the whole
be
game.
gentle.
Yeah.
Holy
so
Mackinac.
I will say this: he did it.
You will not hear that Friday.
Oh, I love
promise
it.
you.
He did a period earlier in the season, and then he did a bit of the St. Mary's, and he's improved, which you want to do. You just want to keep
nowhere
getting
to go
better.
but up after the first one. But the
Oh,
problem
Holly,
is that
it's
nobody ever
fantastic.
scores when I'm calling a game. So I've already warned everybody. It's going to be a 0-0
You know you can't drop
tie.
the F-bombs, right?
Says who?
No one's.
He hasn't done it yet.
To be
so-
clear, no one pays me to go help these
Yeah.
guys. So if I drop an F-bomb, it's
Well,
not like they can fire me.
I'm saying that because I want to preface it.
Well, you get paid
with,
Friday night, so.
the old OSHL
Yeah.
talk that we're about to do. So
Yep.
I'm prefacing that.
Yes.
But good. Best of luck to you, Holly. I'm going to tune in.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
Just
I'm
for
gonna tune
shits
in
and
as well.
giggles.
if you truly have absolutely nothing better to do,
Oh.
then by all means,
Hey, when the kids are at the
Okay,
water
well,
park,
I'll
I'm
take your
tuning
word
in and
for
I'm
it.
texting you. What happened?
see, my concern is not calling the game.
It's getting on air.
It's making the funny stuff work so that
That's
we
what I
actually
had to do
broadcast.
last week.
It-
I'm like, I
it's-
So-
hate this.
And when I first did it, that was my first concern, was getting on air.
Yes.
That's because I have a tutorial video. I literally videoed him
Yep.
setting up. So if there's
Smart.
anyone out there,
We
or
should have did that.
everyone out there who's smarter than me, which
Well,
is pretty much
you might have to
everyone
get
listening.
Dylan to come down and just make sure he's on
Yeah,
standby,
where's my
right?
personal Jesus again? It's,
Right.
oh my God, you're working Fridays too. God, I bail you out every Saturday
He
as it
used to
is.
smile at the arena. Now he's just like,
Now he's
again, here we go.
Well, in fairness, the new owner Marco Moniz, which I was
all
going to
right.
wait to do that, but
Yeah.
anyways, they met Saturday after the game, and some good stuff's going to happen there too. So
Good to see.
just I like putting good people together.
Yep.
Well, speaking of the Irish,
Yeah.
let's get into that.
Let's get
Okay.
Brian the floor.
right?
Oh well. Oh man, you better-
Let's just say, last week I had a few text messages that I wanted to share with my friends about the suspensions that came down for that debacle in Petrolia on the Friday night with Elvinston. But Brian said it the best, and I'm going to let Brian continue on that one because all I could say is, and I texted somebody and I said, it's starting to sound like Mickey Mouse is running the league. And they said, agreed. So,
let's focus on the positives. What we
Correct.
had
Let's-
Saturday night.
100%.
For those who were there, good on you. For those of you who weren't there, you
Number
missed.
one team in town.
You missed, and I said this off air before. I truly believe that was the highest level of talent on the ice playing hockey in a generation on Saturday night. And I don't think that counts as hyperbole to say so.
Holly, Razor and I were up top. Obviously, you were calling the game and did another great job. Stratford had a power play at one point, and I thought we were watching a pinball machine. The rapid fire around the opposing on the power play. Razor, it was incredible.
Well, they
and
were-
I'm not trying to exaggerate.
No.
It was freaking unbelievable.
It's like people need to realize that this isn't like, the senior hockey that, your
This ain't
pappy
your daddy's
played.
senior hockey
It's
league,
not.
man. This is something
This
else.
is semi-pro hockey, and these guys, I'm telling you, and in all due respect, Elvinston left some of their bigwigs at home. Feezy wasn't there, a couple of their D, but folks,
But
they were
McEwen
lights
was
out.
there.
McEwen.
Shasman was there.
Yes.
Freifokel was there. And keep in mind,
Raymakers
they
played
can't
for-
dress them all
for the
anyway.
Red
They got
Wings.
21 or
Right.
22 points on
Right.
that team. They can't dress them all regardless. The
the-
only one that really counts, in my book, is Feezy.
Yes.
Because he's
He's
the guy's
that good.
He's the league's leading scorer.
He's
But-
averaging over 3 points a game. He's the only player in the league averaging over 3 points a game. Like he's all the other guys,
has-
like all the best players are averaging 2. And this guy, if he walked by you, you'd go, "That's Feezy."
Well, and if you checked his stats from junior, you go,
Yeah.
is that the same guy or does he
Yeah.
have a twin brother?
Joe
'Cause he
Hishen mentioned that to me. He's
he-
like, this
he
guy did nothing in the
that
O.
would indicate he was going to do this. But what he has showed up with is the best release in the league.
Yes.
And we talked about other guys like that earlier on this program.
Limit your mistakes against
who,
Feasy.
you just cannot take penalties against this team
right?
because their coach does great things getting him open. Having said all that, the game itself was, Stratford needed the points. So just to preface it all, Alvinston's home and cooled in first place, as we mentioned, didn't bring everybody with them, but it is a rivalry game still. And so those who were dressed had no problem motivating themselves because there were, I believe, near to 800 people in the barn.
Yeah, it was a
and
good
of course,
crowd.
Alvinston always shows up. Their fans are.
They travel well.
Remember
probably
last year in the
200.
playoffs?
Yep.
They showed up with 2 busfuls of people.
Yes.
90 minutes before the game, they were all half cut. The beer sales.
Now the $3 beers didn't hurt.
Yeah.
Oh,
they
the
raised
$3 beer nights.
So Stratford comes out and scores early.
Mo.
And gets going, gets up 2-0.
Yep.
And then there were a couple of real interesting parts of the game where it was 3-1.
Well, it was 3-0. Then, sorry.
Well, they
go
made
ahead.
it 3-0, and then boom, they went down and scored, and it's 3-1. So it was only 3-0 for less than a minute, I believe. And then so at 3-1, about the middle of the second period, you've got Stratford taking, and I'm still trying to figure out what the call was there because there was a draw and then a broken stick, and then they're taking him off.
Yeah.
And then
Did he play the puck with the broken stick?
And then Murray chirped the call, and he must have said something really cool because he took him too.
Who was the referee?
Yeah, they got that double minor.
I don't, some guy named Xbox or something. I don't know. Anyways, so all of a sudden you've got a 5-on-3 for 2 full minutes
Yes.
against Alvinston.
Yes.
And I got to say, the ice was not good.
Really?
The ice, there were pucks bouncing over sticks all night long, and that saved Stratford a couple of times because Alvinston was bouncing it around like a pinball.
They killed that
and then it
all
went
off.
back to Fryfocal, and it bounced over his stick and got the break that they needed to get the forward off the ice. But Zach Magwood, what a freaking
Unreal.
stud this dude is, man. I tell you what.
Set up the
He
game
helped-
winner.
Well, he helped kill that 5-on-3.
Yeah.
And then they bring him off after that jump stick, and they get Stokes out there.
But-
they kill the penalty off. So instead of 3-2 on a power play goal, and then Stratford goes down and scores and make it 4-1 after
4-1.
2.
Yes.
You know what though, Holly, too, on that 5-on-3 with Magwood out there, like there wasn't even really a threat. Like it wasn't. There wasn't. There might have been a shot or two, but it wasn't
Henderson
like
and Murray, not Murray. It was Henderson and Thiessen, the new defenseman.
Yeah.
Boy, is that
and
kid stud.
Magwood.
Holy
What a
mackerel.
beauty display of a penalty kill.
The talent
like,
level is
they
off
had
the
a
charts.
couple shots, but it wasn't anything like you're
Weir
like,
didn't
holy.
have to, do any 10
He did.
else.
Though. He made that
did.
one with the glove hand.
Yes.
What
on that power play.
on that? Oh,
On the
yeah.
5 was it on the
It's on
5-on-3?
5-on-3.
Okay.
That glove hand save, and he even got up, lifted his mask up, had this big smile, this big crap-eating grin on his. Yeah, I didn't cuss. Crap-eating grin on his face, and gets up, smile on his face, and they're all tapping him on the pads. They kill the penalty off, and they go down and score and make it 4-1. So
Yes.
after 2 periods, it's 4-1, and I'm not sure exactly what happened first shift of the third period, but they scored from like the goal line. It was
Yeah.
Lamel again getting his second goal. And
12
then-
seconds in.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then they scored again to make it 4-3.
I think it was McEwen.
Yep.
And that was a beautiful play
Oh,
because
from Shasma.
Shasma's in the corner
Yes.
and sends an ankle-high pass out in front of the net.
And he redirects
And
it.
he plucks it
Yeah,
out of the air and
yeah.
taps it in. And I've seen him do that before. McEwen,
Oh, yeah.
What a beauty that McEwen is. Best face-off man
Yeah.
in the league. The only
Smooth.
face-off he lost all night was the one with 7 seconds left in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So they tie it up with that fluky goal off of Justin Murray's shin pad.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, it's 4-4. They've
Yeah.
come back from 4-1. And I'm saying on air, you know what? Stratford needs these points.
Oh,
Alvinston,
yeah.
But there's nothing Alvinston would love better than to
Oh,
walk in here
yes.
in a game that meant nothing
Yep.
and take the 2 points from them.
Yep.
So I just said, listen, whatever it takes, you got to get this game to overtime and get the 1 point. And
Yeah.
they did that. And I'm going to toot my own horn a little bit here. And I said to my partner, Trey Hamilton, I said, you know who has looked really good tonight is Graham Brulot.
Yep.
He's had trouble scoring recently. He's been a bit, unlucky with the puck, not getting much puck luck, but he had chances. He had a couple of scoring chances. I just feel like, and I said, and I think I can quote myself, I feel like he's going to do something cool here. So we get into overtime, and Stratford is, by my account, pretty much dominating.
Yeah,
the
they were
play.
buzzing.
And they had the puck 90% of the time. And then it was Pekka who gets the puck in his own end, does this quick change of direction, draws a tripping penalty, and even the Alvinston fans couldn't argue. It was truly a penalty. Well, tough to get a penalty in overtime, but I didn't hear any argument from Alvinston.
Right.
So they come out on the power play, and it is Henderson and Thiessen and Magwood and Brulot, and I'm just going, this
Giggling.
I was literally giggling. And then it's McEwen and Shasma and Freifokel, and I'm going,
Yeah.
I would take any of these dudes to any hockey game I have ever been to. And then, of course, the beauty look by Henderson, who's got the big booming slap shot, and he took one earlier in the power play, and it was a nice save by Raymakers. And then he winds up to take another one and then sees Magwood down beside the net and draws the defender out, fakes the pass, and there's Brulot standing out in front, bang, bang, it's in the net. 4-3 Stratford.
Yeah,
2
Raymakers
overtimes
he had no
this
chance.
year in Stratford, and Brulot scored both the goals.
Yeah.
Because he scored the goal against Elora.
So you hear Brulot a lot because he's one of the OGs that you always mention, which is great. And with all there's been a lot of transition happening over the last little bit, and he's just one of those guys in Razor. And we talked about it a lot at the games and less too. Like those are just the guys that you pull for. You're still pulling for Robbins. You're still pulling for. The Stokes and all these guys because there's
Martin got hurt. He had to leave the
he
game there.
lost
I
Chicklets.
talked to him, and he said he's okay.
Did you lose Chicklets?
He got that high stick there,
Yeah.
and I asked him, I said, are you okay? And he said, yeah, I'll be all right. There's no problem.
But,
'Cause you love Marty.
we talk about the Pekkas and the Magwoods and the Halls and all that, and those are, pivotal players that come into the scene, but you still have those anchors that, probably help continue to create the culture and
That's the OGs,
continue to get that message out and just even with with the fact that Pie isn't there anymore, that's still instilled in them, and I think that's part of the Irish culture, and I'm always so thankful for those guys with their commitment, and they could have quit a long time ago.
Graham
Right?
Brulot's had that sneaky wrist shot since he played
He's
for the
fantastic.
Coltons.
Well,
in
he's a
town, or
modern
the Warriors.
day. He's a modern day Guy Lafleur, and anybody who's old like me remembers Guy Lafleur come flying down the right wing and used to routinely bounce pucks in off the far post.
Yeah.
Low, stick side, in off the post,
Yep.
and he does that. He has done that since the day he walked in the door. He left for about a half a season to go play in Germany, I think it was. Make a few. I mean, who wouldn't?
Right.
Right. I mean, if you're in
Right.
your 20s and you got an
Why
opportunity to
wouldn't
go
ya?
get paid to play sports in Europe, my ass already left. I got to catch up with it. You know what I mean? So it's just, I'm so happy, and he is a prince of a guy too. And one of these days we got to get one of those Irish fellas.
Yes, we do.
on the show.
Yeah, no, that would be awesome.
So we just have a quick question from the note board here on YouTube Live. Does the league have any special insurance for facial/dental injuries? Hopefully Colin Martin has some kind of coverage. It looked like it was a lost tooth or two.
I heard that part of his tooth was in his throat and he was having trouble, trying to spit it out.
I don't know the particulars because I'm not with the organization. All I know is that they are not affiliated with Hockey Canada, so they have their own.
Insurance,
the league has its own insurance policy.
Right.
Yeah,
So
good question.
the short answer is yes. Everybody's got insurance.
Thanks again for chiming in, Gary.
Yeah, you really wouldn't want to go out at this level and not. You know what
Well,
I mean?
you would-
As good as we're
Guys
talking
gotta
these
get up.
guys. Well, as good as we're talking these guys up, they still all get up Monday morning and go to work.
And go to work.
Oh, and have
Yeah.
families and travel and
Yep.
all of it, right?
A lot of them have young kids and what have you.
Now that you got through that game,
You're baiting me, Les.
I have an issue with the OSHL.
Me too.
Last Friday night, Elvinston left the ice with 12 minutes remaining in the game. A garbage can came on the ice at the referee.
Two.
Two garbage cans came on the referee. The coach took the team off. So that's a travesty of the game. Okay.
Can I put some context onto that story?
Well, you can, but I'll let you do that in a second. All I want to say is usually a travesty of the game. I don't know how the league only gives them 2 games for that.
Well, you're preaching to the choir here.
Like a travesty of there's no need for that in any level of hockey. 5 games would have been the minimum I was saying, but this league decides they're only going to give them 2 games.
When Jeff Morris got 5 games.
When Jeff Morris gets 5 games for an addition mistake.
For accidentally putting too many points.
There is
in
no
the lineup.
transparency in this league at the moment with the people making the decisions.
Yeah.
But that's my only qualm. And I'll let Brian continue on with that one because I'm not. I don't like the way the optics of it are horrible.
Right.
How am I doing on time? This could take a minute.
Yeah.
We'll give you a
it's-
minute.
Yeah, we got a few minutes. So
All right.
But just to be clear, Brian, and we've talked about this over break, like, you know, there's a lot to be said, and obviously Les, you know, prefaced it with his comment, but, you know, you kind of have a little bit more in with what you see. So, and I'm not discounting what you said, Les, but there's a lot, I think, going on behind the scenes. But if you could say what you know and what you think.
Well, for those who don't know, it was a Friday night in Petrolia, Alvinston in Petrolia. They labeled this, these are big games. It's labeled the Battle of Lambton County, and it is 100% a rivalry. And I've talked to, as some of you may or may not know, I'm on the Ontario Super Hockey League podcast. 2 guys that are on that podcast with me. One is Joel Campbell, who is the voice of the Alvinston Killer Bees, and another is Brad Burton, who played in the league, played years in senior, and is from Petrolia. So this is very much close to home. Also, another guy on the podcast who did the game with me, Trey Hamilton, who is formerly the voice of the Tillsonburg Thunder, now the voice of the Orangeville Blitz, was at that game because he's a OSHL junkie. So 3 of the guys on my podcast were actually in the barn. Here's the story. It was 2-0 for Petrolia in the 3rd period. And Jacob Chandler, one of my favorites in the league, a former St. Mary's Lincoln, got run into the boards from behind. Now, there's a video out there somewhere, probably on Instagram. The hit in it of itself was not malicious. However, there was a follow-up with the cross
Into the
check
neck.
that put his face into the glass. Jacob ended up going to the hospital. I believe it. I'm not a doctor, and I don't have his medical report, so I'm not going to guess. He had an injury to his head. There was blood. I don't know the details. I can tell you that Jacob went home that night. He hasn't played since, but he's been home, and by all accounts, from what I'm hearing, he will be fine. So first and foremost, let's put a thought out to Jacob Chandler, who was the guy who was hurt. He's going to be fine. He's going to be okay. What happened next just borders on the surreal, frankly, because there was no call. There was no penalty called on it. And there's an almost identical hit that happened a week later in Richmond Hill when Tilbury went to Richmond Hill, and a guy got pushed into the boards from behind and went headfirst into the boards. No call, and I'm just really struggling with this. Mm-hmm. Having said that, as cheesed off as I would be that there was no call, there's a limitation to how cheesed off you can get. So there was an argument and a lot of chirping, and Alvinston refused to put their team on the ice. So the referee further incensed them and gave them a 2-minute penalty for delay of game because they just wouldn't wouldn't send anybody out. The coach loses his mind, starts hurling the first verbally, and then throws the garbage can from the bench out onto the ice.
Right.
And it wasn't empty.
No.
It was full of half-empty,
Nachos.
half-drank coffees.
Nachos.
stains.
Nachos
what
and cheese.
I'm just saying it wasn't empty. There is now refuse and stains on the ice. A player, are we okay with names? Van Bokel was the guy's name, threw a water bottle at the official. Did not hit him.
Right.
That further incensed the Alvinston fans, and I got to say, the Alvinston fans, we talked about them earlier. They are the most,
They're rabid.
and they are
They're
the most
rabid.
ardent fans in this league.
Yeah. It's the water in Alvinston.
Well, they're a little bit nuts. They take their team, but I can empathize a little bit when you've got that small of a town having that good of a team,
Right.
and nothing else going on.
and nothing else
Yeah.
going on. It becomes kind of almost a Charlestown Chiefs kind of following.
Right.
Very, very, very devout. And so
Religion.
Yes.
Next thing you know, from the fourth row of the Petrolia Arena, a second garbage can comes flying out onto the ice.
I couldn't believe it watching it.
The garbage can almost literally went over top of Trey Hamilton. Okay, so he saw it all, heard it all.
Right.
Alvinston decides they're leaving.
Right.
And
They're like the Russians. They're going home.
exactly, for those of us who
Bobby
are old
Cole.
enough to remember, it totally reminded me of the game in Philadelphia when the
Right.
Russians left the ice.
Yeah.
Now, it was a similar kind of a thing. It was because of lack of calls by the referee.
Right.
The difference is the Russians came back out.
Right.
And I know why they came back out.
Well, they weren't going to get their money.
Because Eagleson went into their room and said, find me a translator and tell
Right.
these idiots if you don't get your rear ends back on the ice in 5 seconds, you're not getting paid.
Right.
So they
Yeah.
waltzed back out on the
Right.
ice, finished the game. Philadelphia won 4-1.
Yeah.
And for once in anybody's life, everybody in North America was a Philadelphia Flyers fan.
Right. Right.
Here's the difference.
Oh, dear.
Okay? Alvinston didn't come back.
Because they already have the
They
money.
went home.
Yeah.
Right.
They went home. Now, they cited player safety as the
Right.
reason that they left. And that is a bunch of hornswoggle.
Yeah.
Meadow muffins. All right? I'm trying.
No after eights after
I'm
dinner.
trying. I am
No
trying.
handing any of them out.
No.
Metal muffins.
I'll tell you why they left. There's only one reason why they left. Because they had first place locked up, and the game meant nothing to
It
them.
means nothing.
But they are going on about player safety. Well, I got 2 questions. Number one, what if the game was in Alvinston and you had your rabid fan base packing the place,
Right.
down 2-0 with 12 minutes left? Will you leave? Hell no. You're not going anywhere. Nowhere.
Right.
All right? I'll even give you one more thing. If you go to the referee and say, we are devastated. Remember DeMar Hamlin?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
They stopped that game. Why did they stop that game? Not because they wanted a call, because the players were devastated at the injury.
He
Well, he
actually
died on the field.
If Alvinston says the guys are just a mess. They are, the guys are on the bench crying. We're so worried about Jacob Chandler. We just want to go. You
Right.
guys can have the 2 points. We don't. But it wasn't like that. It was like, you didn't call it. We're mad at you. We're worried about player safety. We're leaving.
taking our ball
and I'll
and
ask
bat
another
and
question.
going home.
If this is game 2 of a playoff series and it's in Petrolia, and that happens and there's no call, does Alvinston leave? Hell no,
Not
they
a
don't
chance.
leave. They only left because the game meant nothing.
Nothing.
So fast forward to the next Monday when I'm on this other podcast and we are under direct instruction from the league.
Don't talk about it.
Let us sort this out before you guys go.
Right.
And I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I didn't like it, but I told the company line. We all did for 1 week
Sure.
because we all had opinions.
Sure.
Especially like Joel Campbell, like I said, is the voice of Alvinston. Obviously, he's taken the
Yeah,
pro
yeah,
side.
right.
And so we wait. And then out come the suspensions. 2 games for the coach for throwing the garbage can on the ice.
Right.
2 games for Van Boekel for throwing a water bottle at the referee. 3 games to Matar, I believe was the Petrolia player's name who put Jacob Chandler in the hospital. And a $500 fine for the club for leaving. Okay? Now, that may not sound like a travesty when you say it, but when you go back a month, and you alluded to it, Stratford iced 1 point too many.
Right.
And not only was it our side who were saying it was inadvertent, the league said in their report, we believe that due to the change in the ownership and what have you, it was accidental, it wasn't malicious, they didn't mean to do it.
Right.
So they gave Jeff Morris a 5-game suspension and fined the team $500. So what they are saying, what the league is telling the world is that throwing garbage cans on the ice, throwing stuff at an official, putting a hockey player in the hospital, and leaving a game in the middle of the 3rd period are all somehow less egregious fouls than accidentally putting a lineup out there with too many points.
Right.
On what planet does that make sense to anyone? What an absolute travesty. is
Bill
the word.
Ryan and Jim Hawthorne. That's the only
I
people it
just-
makes sense to.
And so if you are confused at home, folks, welcome to the club, because if all I know is if I'm Jeff Morris, I crawl right up Jim Hawthorne's rear end and go, I'm appealing my suspension.
Right.
Because I got 5 games and I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
He put a guy in the hospital. He left a game in the middle. He threw something at the ref. And you not only decided it was not as bad, it was not even half as bad.
Right.
2 games versus 5.
And-
what a bloody joke. And there, I made it through without cussing.
They're so afraid of hearing it from the fans that they turn off all commenting on their posts.
Well, I get that because the comments,
Ah,
I saw the
Holly.
comments before they turned it
Yeah.
off and they were getting ugly.
But it's a joke. You got 2 guys doing that, and Mickey Mouse is running the league. Sorry.
Holly, I have grave concerns for the league because it's so great. The quality's there, the
on-ice
talent's there,
product is
everything
so
is
good.
amazing.
It is.
And when you have that, and thanks for not, putting us into another realm of when you were swearing, but all joking aside, Holly, you couldn't have said it better. What's the word? Focal points are they trying to do? They've really screwed this one up.
Well, I tell you what, a few years ago, I did a job for the Intercounty Baseball Association. I was in charge of suspensions, discipline, progressive discipline, whatever you want to call it. I was on the committee for 3 years. The last 2, I was the chair,
You were the George Peros.
so to
the
speak.
league, yes.
Okay, and I can tell you, and I think we spoke about this before, and I may have referenced that job that I did with the ICBA. There is no scenario anywhere ever where everyone is going to say, yeah, that's about right. Okay?
Right.
Doing that job handing out a suspension is just like calling a bang play at first base in extra innings.
Right.
It doesn't matter what word you use, somebody is going to call you an idiot.
Yes.
Or an offside.
Yes.
Okay? It doesn't matter. Either way, people are going to make a stink about it. Having said that, you only have really 2 things to hang on to. Number 1 is your wisdom and experience. All right? You've been around. The only way you're doing a job like that is you've been around the sport a long time. You've seen this and you've seen that. And Peros is probably a great example. Whether he's doing a good job or not, he is at least on paper qualified to make such decisions. The second thing you have to hang on to is some semblance of consistency. And that's like any official in any sport, all the people are asking for is consistency. This is the opposite of that. And I understand how serious you are about not putting an illegal lineup out on the ice. You made that very clear. You gave 5 games and a $500 suspension. But to tie this to that just blows any credibility that your office has.
Right.
And that is a damn shame because there's a lot of us that promote this league. We've been talking up until we started telling this story. We were talking about how, and I genuinely mean that with hopefully without bias, that was the best collection of hockey talent on the ice, possibly outside of an NHL alumni game that has been like competitively played against each other in a generation.
Yeah, like just pure hockey talent. The league is second to none.
Tell me how much you guys would love to see a 7-game series between those 2 teams that played Saturday night. You can't
Right.
match that, not in this area. You cannot match that.
Yeah.
So the league has to somehow bring itself up to that level because, as someone said on the other podcast, this puts the semi in semi-pro.
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
Well said, Holly.
Yep.
Yeah, it's
It's disappointing to hear your explanation and what has happened, and 5 games for Moen. Let's not get into that, but with like physical.
He's such a badass.
Well, it's just yeah, exactly, eh?
In and of itself,
Nicest
nobody
guy.
nobody argued it at the time.
right.
5 games, that's the penalty for doing this. Fair enough. That's the penalty for
Yeah.
icing. You know what I mean?
Trash cans, dangerous hits,
Throwing stuff
all
at
sorts
officials.
of stuff.
Like
Leaving
if I'm
the ice,
referee, like
just
that's-
leaving the game.
I'm trying to be as empathetic as I can on all sides of it. I get how pissed off they were.
Sure.
But you're not going anywhere if that's a playoff game, and you're not going anywhere if it's a home game. You only left because you're on the road and it didn't matter.
So that fine-
And the league just let them get away with it. There was no actual suspension for the leaving of the game. There was only a forfeit.
Yeah.
Forfeit?
Who gives a
You were
shit?
down 2-0 and you quit. What the hell's a forfeit about?
Okay, so let me tell you a story. When we were in minor midget, we were done. So you used to have the Hub League, and then you had the All
majors,
Ontario. We were done playing our series, and we're waiting for 2 teams to finish their series. And our coach at the time, Randy Morris, didn't want us sitting around. So he does an exhibition game. Now, we were minor midgets, so, I don't know what that would be, like U15.
15, yeah.
Okay, so over in St. Mary's, they combine the minor midget and major midgets, so they would combine the U15 and the U16 team. They had some big boys. We go over there for an exhibition game, and it was something like that where the refs weren't calling hits, and St. Mary's was just trying to take their liberties on us. So Randy, this is an exhibition game while we're waiting to play our next playoff round. Randy Morris pulls us off the ice and says, like, we've got meaningful games to play here. We end up going to the room. We go home. We think nothing of it. The OMHA suspended Randy Morris for a year. He got a 1-year suspension for an exhibition game. So that, folks, goes to tell you how little the people leading the league.
Like I said, there was no actual suspension for the leaving of the game.
Right.
Only a $500 fine.
Right. So
Unbelievable. Just unbelievable.
Because
Crazy.
if that happened in the GOJHL,
Oh,
it would
kidding
be
me?
hell to pay.
Will he
Exactly.
be
The
done?
fine would be
Will he
huge.
be done for the year?
for a
Well,
league game.
If Willie
think
pulled
you're-
his team off in that situation, he'd be done for
Just
the
reading your
year.
comment, Jess. Well done. In his best Gorilla Monsoon voice, miscarriage of justice.
Good old Chester. Oh,
Gary Broadhagen, well said, Holly. Graves has nothing on you.
Founts timed it for the
Yep.
owners to stop running the
You
league. Hire a
people.
commissioner.
that's right. Hire a commissioner.
You're right.
If
There
I
you
could be
go.
really
That is the
straightforward
commission.
here with
Hawthorne is the commissioner.
Yeah.
with the message board tonight. Listeners, viewers, thank you so much,
Guys, it
for
was
your
awesome.
interaction.
Love
The
it.
feedback
Oh my
is
gosh.
awesome.
Love it,
We
guys.
that.
Yeah.
And so we won't say the names for next week.
Yeah.
But folks, tune in. You people are gonna want to
Oh
watch this.
dear.
Oh,
Yeah,
my
give us a
Lanta. She's going to be a good one, folks.
What do you mean, you people?
I'm just saying,
You people.
our listeners. I'm not throwing any racial tones.
Now
out
we're going to
there.
have to get
I'm
rid of
just
you
saying the
because you
people-
said you
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. We've
Now
got
one
some
of us is gonna
doozies.
throw you under
We've
the
got
bus.
we've got 3 doozies, folks. One guy had a great NHL career, and I'm so looking forward to
You're going to
this
give it
next
away if
week.
you keep
No,
going.
I'm not.
Yeah, you are.
I
yeah,
am
you
not.
Are. Yeah, you are.
I am not.
Oh, well, it's not like
One
you
is
said
the
name.
one is the father of a superstar in minor hockey here
Oh
in
my
town,
and it's not at Old Junk.
and we're not talking junior.
Right.
We're talking Saturday, Thursday nights, and Sunday
Right?
mornings.
Yes. So
But,
it's going to be great.
Yeah.
It's going to be, and that's going to be our lead-in show to the reveal show on February
Yeah.
10th. So we just have to confirm a couple of things before we can officially release the guest names for
Man,
next
I put
week.
today that we would release it, but okay.
Yeah,
That was my fault.
I know. I reached out. Actually, you know what I did?
You didn't reach
I
out,
had a-
and
I had a-
I'm embarrassed.
I was dealing with
He
a
reached
broken
around.
Yes.
I'm kidding.
So why don't you just tell us?
Something about a
Hey,
frozen
everybody
water main.
that's
pipe.
been typing in and just tell them to tell us.
Yeah.
Come on, get over it. Tell us. Come
I
on,
think-
tell us. Come on.
Should we?
Yeah.
If-
Yes,
I
we
think-
did.
I think we
should.
might as well now.
All
so
right. All right.
I'll say the two. The two are going to be 2/3 of the saw line in Stratford.
Right.
Colin Schmidt and Eric Anderson, which
Yes.
Eric Anderson is the father of Bo Anderson, who is the superstar in the Thursday night and Sunday morning
Is that midget juvie or?
midget juvie league. I love Bo to death.
And Stratford's newest pickup, Jonas Schmidt. So
Colin.
Colin, yep.
it's gonna be awesome having those guys on. We're trying to bring Dennis into the mix, but who knows what'll happen if we can.
When you say Dennis, you mean Dennis Williams?
That was supposed to be a surprise, but
Well, you know what?
Well,
we're bringing.
You said Colin.
yes,
Like Jesus.
and
All
we've
right.
also got an NHLer.
yes.
We've got
We
an
will leave that up in the air.
Yeah. So folks,
Possibly.
tune in for next week's show because it's going to be a doozy.
2/3 of the solid. Actually, Colin calls it the was line.
Are we
now,
going to
so-
get a banquet table from Greg Hader?
Now it's a saw line. In a generation, it's the
Going to
was
get a
line.
banquet table from
Well
Greg
put.
Hader?
Yeah, I think we might
Yeah.
be able to.
But
do
we want
something.
Holly here.
Yeah.
I made that
It's
decision.
gonna be good.
If you don't want to be here, that's fine. You let us know. Do
It's
we want
never
to call
about-
your
it's never
agent?
about-
Or?
You can let
never-
us know last minute if you
It's
want.
never. It's after that ran. I'm probably kicked off the other one. So
Well,
I
not
probably got
kicked
some
off.
time on
Asked
my
to
hands.
leave. There's a difference.
Yeah. Well, they can't. Like I said, they don't pay me, so they can't fire me.
Right.
We haven't been able to call you last minute Larry in a while.
You know
so-
what? You know what, Holly?
This table's always open for you.
what you just said and how you explain things. How would you get removed, or like what did you say that was wrong?
Well, don't ask me because I said it.
Don't ask me. All of a sudden, he has nothing to say.
Don't ask me. I never say anything wrong if you ask me.
Oh, should we preface that with the opinions of Brian Holly? Do you not
Are
consider-
not necessarily shared
You know?
with the Armchair Chirpers.
No, they are.
Oh no, they're sharing.
They are. We support you. We support you
Absolutely.
fully. No
You guys-
worries about
You
that.
guys are like Wonder Bra. You always support me.
Holy Judas.
Is that what your pappy would say?
No, that one's mine.
Okay.
I think that does it.
Yeah.
All right, folks. It's okay not to be okay. Just start the conversation.
Absolutely.
All
Thanks,
right.
guys. Have a
Thanks.
great night.
We'll see you next week.
Free Mo.
Wayward mind, lovesick blind. Why do I climb these heights for you? Twisted muse always gets my